Hey, folks, I'm here. Believe it or not, just came in from the wind. Hang on, I gotta adjust my lights. There we go. It is time, but we're still in the pre show, even though I'm about a minute and a half late. So I hope you're all doing well tonight. Hey, Leslie, good to see you. You're a new member? All right. I thought you already were. So good to see you. Good to see you, Sean. We're doing a public show tonight, so I'm sure we'll get all the stragglers back in. And I'm happy to have you. So thank you for being here. We got about 40 seconds and we have to go live over on radio. Now, we cannot take calls, as most of you know, during the live show on the radio. We still have some kind of technical glitch that we haven't been able to figure out how to make it work, other than me buying a new computer. That ain't going to happen. A second computer, let's put it that way. So during the show, there's no calls, but in the captain's cabin, the after show, 1 hour from now, we'll be able to do that. For now, we got to go dark. Sit tight. Be right back.
The Intrepid radio program with Scotty Roberts. Intelligent talk.
Hey, folks, happy Wednesday evening. Welcome to the program. So glad you could be here. What do you need, small child?
Don't you wish your girlfriend was hot like me?
Oh, yeah. Hot like an 8-year-old. So that was my young daughter, for those of you who aren't aware. That's Ellery. She has to come in and always interrupt the show somehow. It's okay to some degree. But Leslie, regarding not doing live YouTubes, I do them at least once a week. I'll do a live YouTube, and then I do live YouTube on Sundays for our informal It's Sunday show. Officially labeled It's Sunday with Scotty and Rainey, but getting her in here has the last 7-8 months has been almost impossible. So she's not here quite as often, but she does make an appearance every now and then. Hey, Delaney Pearl Jones, and of course, Leslie Holker, and Sean Stroik, Randall Flagg, good to see you. Roger Rabbit, good to see you. Sean Holt, good to see you, brother. It was good to see you the other day. Under better circumstances would have been nice, but Sean was also a very good friend of Dave Potter's, and we had the memorial services for Dave on Saturday this last week, and I got to see Sean for the first time in years, although we comment to each other all the time. So it was good to see you, Sean. And who else is here? Anybody I'm missing right off the bat? I usually don't do this during show time, but we didn't do it in the pre-show because I came in a little bit late. So thank you for everybody who is here. Appreciate you being here. Remember, the show is something that we ported over to Patreon, which is a pay site. I can put up free things. As a matter of fact, this show is running to the general public over there on my Patreon tonight. A couple of the drawbacks of Patreon: there's not a very good chat room built in. There's a comment board, but you have to keep refreshing it. I can also link up a chat room into that, but that doesn't. That's not something I've fixed yet because it can be a little spendy and it can be a little clunky to use. I haven't gotten over the clunky stage of that yet, so that's coming. Patreon, let me just tell you, as long as I'm talking about it, it's there for one purpose. It was created for one purpose. Patreon is a site where artists, artisans of all brands, from verbal communication to music to art to crafts to all of that kind of stuff, film. It's a place where they can go and seek public support for what they do. As far as what I do over on Patreon, it's a way to say, if this show is worth something to my followers and my viewers, that helps me at the rate of about $4 a month beginning, and anything you want to put in, it helps me put out shows and do a better job. And it's, I know over the years, 20 years I've been doing this show, I've had a lot of people that have said, man, you should do 2 or 3 hours a night. I would, except it takes time. And that's time that's not paid for in my job. And so I look for ways for it to be entertaining to you so that it's good for you. If it's good and you like it and you like to support this show and you can spare, as I've said many times, the amount of about a cup of coffee at Starbucks once a month, 1 cup of coffee a month. If you can spare that amount every month, come on over to Patreon and become a member. And some of you already are members, and I sure appreciate that. Patreon brought you here. The link is in there. That was it, Barbie D. I did tag you and everybody else on the post as well. So, what did you say, Leslie? African what? Oh, African men. African men, Scotty. You're worth every penny when it comes up. Thank you, Leslie. I appreciate it. And so yeah, Patreon, I set it up to be a live show tonight, Barbie D. So I'm glad to have you in the chat room, and those of you who are here in the chat room. So if you want to support this show, if you like it enough to be here whenever it's free, go show me that you can give me a cup of coffee a month and help us support the show so we can do better things. The idea is do bigger and better things. My daughter said to me today, she's watching some kids' YouTube show. I think it's called LOL podcast or something. Very professionally done. And it's a young married couple, young in their early 20s, and a teenager or two and younger kids. And they have all these boom mics coming in front of everybody, and everybody's sitting around as a mic. That takes dollars coming in. And so what I have to determine is, I have my doubts sometimes because my thousands of people who like to listen to this show over the years, and only a fraction have come over and supported the Patreon page. It makes me wonder, am I good enough? Am I just not good enough? Is it not enough of a draw? So that's my private stuff on that I've now shared with you. So that's the purpose of Patreon. It's a thing that says, I'm not Michelangelo. I don't have the Pope paying for me. Or as Uncle Dave would say, as Michelangelo, he'd say, that a Pope. He says, it's not all it's cracked up to be. He says, candles. He gives you ask for candles to paint by. He gives me a one stinking a little candle. And so, there it goes. But that's what Patreon's for. So if you have a loyalty to this show, you like it, go on over to our Patreon. That's enough for my ad. If I was a minister in a televangelistic effort, then I would say, and the ushers will come by with the offering plate. So there it is. So thank you for being here. Thank you for coming. If you can't be a paying member at Patreon, I'm happy to have you. Still love having you here. And that's why we still do some of these shows that we open up to the public. So everybody gets a chance to come back in. And so thanks for being here. Thanks for giving me your time. Thanks for everything you do. And I mentioned that already because Sean is here. Sean, sorry, not Stroik, even though you're here. Sean Holt, a good friend of mine for a long time, 20 years probably, close to. Met him right around the same time I met Rainey. And we were all part of Festival. And Sean, because he was here, made me think immediately of the ceremonies for Dave Potter on Saturday. There was a church service down in Rochester here, and then we, about an hour and a half from my house, and then about an hour and a half back up to the city for the celebration of life at the Masonic Temple. And I bumped into Sean there, and didn't bump into him. We were both there. Sean is part of the Masons and was part of the ceremonies for Uncle Dave. And so it was good to see him and sit and talk with him for a while. I saw some other good friends of mine, old friends from the festival. Some of them I had to look and I go, do I really remember that person? That person looks familiar. Who is that? Who is that? Who is that? Then they come up and they talk to me. They go, hey, Scotty, give me a hug. And it's so good to see you. And I don't remember who they are. Now, that's not a brain thing. I'm not like getting old and feeble in mind. It's a thing of not having seen those people for so long or talk to them, communicate with them in any way, shape, or form. And we've all aged. It's been 2005 was the year that I retired out of festival officially. And then I was back in 2007 doing the little stage show with Dave Potter for the children's book for Tam O'Hare. And other than that, I have been to festival once or twice as a patron. Once with John Ward and once with Rainey and my kids when we only had 2 kids. And so I don't get that out there as much anymore. I remember you, Sarah. I remember your face, especially. So I'd remember you if you were there. And I think I'd know it was you, especially if you wore a T-shirt with a big pink dot on it. Then that was what Dave said. And he said there was something about meeting you in person. He said, if you wear a shirt with a big pink dot, we'll know who you are. So welcome to the program, Sarah. And so everybody runs into this at one point in their life or another. And that's the topic of tonight's show, talking about death. I've not been preoccupied with death since the passing of Uncle Dave, but it has brought certain things to mind. The brevity of life, the how quickly life goes by, and how much it's like I said in the eulogy. It's for us, the living, rather, to carry on. And I also had said during the ceremonies, I said, I don't grieve for Dave. I grieve for me. I grieve for my loss of Dave. And so in doing that, we obviously think about death more and more. I'm not a spring chicken anymore. I could fall off the planet any day if I'm not careful. And of course, the things that we take for granted about our lives every day could be gone tomorrow, or the people around us. I think about that. You have those morbid thoughts at times. What if my wife died? If my wife died, I'd be lost for a long time. Life wouldn't come to an end for me, but I don't want to have to go through that. If I lost a child, I would not have to go through that. None of that is something that any of us really wants to go through. And so I brought up a bunch of things I was looking at on this, not because I don't have my own thoughts, but I wanted to see what other people were thinking. I wanted to see what psychologists were thinking about this, psychiatrists. I wanted to see what scientists were talking about life after death. And Einstein said, and I think this is a great point, he said, our limited minds cannot grasp the mysterious force that sways the constellations. He says, and I'm fascinated by Spinoza's pantheism. I admire even more his contributions to modern thought. Spinoza is the greatest of modern philosophers, he said, because he is the first philosopher who deals with the soul and the body as one, not as separate things. And this is something we actually are taught in the Greek mind, Pythagoras and Plato and all of those. They are worth looking at. But there's something I want to look at with this too. This whole, is there life after death, and how scientists on both sides of that coin, try to tackle the eternal question of these things. And whether or not there's life after death has been widely debated since the beginning of mankind. Many people who've been declared clinically dead have been jolted back to life, some of them unwillingly, it seems. And after experiencing very powerful, benign presences, seeing lights that beckon them onward to an unknown, but unmistakably beautiful and transcendent place. And since this has happened innumerable times over the centuries, sometimes to people who had no prior belief in God, many think that this is proof positive that there's an afterlife. Or is it all chemical reactions in the brain? Is it the brain, the psyche, the power of the mind that creates these things for us? And especially the more we know about it, the more that people experience these things. And clearly, the presence of heaven is a major tenet of Christianity. It's a place where souls go to enjoy theosis or union with God and the infinite. And other faiths, such as Hinduism, feature central ideas about the presence of an afterlife, even multiple afterlives. Does that make it real because our faiths tell us it's so? Because we have a hope in it? Something else I mentioned at Dave's eulogy, I said the Apostle Paul, who I don't always, I've got my problems with Paul, but he was still a good philosopher, a Christian philosopher. He said that we sorrow not as those who have no hope. And what drives us in our faith is the fact that we have a hope to go to. But there's no proof that that hope exists. That hope is solely one of faith, and it's in our hearts, in our minds. One life is enough for me, is something Einstein had said. His religious views have been widely studied, but unfortunately just as often misunderstood. Einstein stated that he believed in the pantheistic God of the 7th century Jewish philosopher Baruch Spinoza. And in other words, he didn't believe in a personal God who concerns himself with fates and actions of humans, a view which he described as naive. He clarified that, however, stating, "I'm not an atheist," said Einstein, preferring to call himself an agnostic or a religious non-believer. Einstein also quipped that, as regards a life after death, one life is enough for me. Now, does that life go on, is what the question is. You can ask a scientist, and 10 scientists will give you 10 different answers. Maybe 11, if they're a good philosopher on top of it. Einstein himself acknowledged that the problem of God was the most difficult problem in the world, a question that couldn't be answered simply with a yes or a no. Even this greatest of human intellects conceded that the problem involved is too vast for our limited minds. I have said it this way myself. I've said, grasping the infinite is nearly impossible for the finite. We're told there is an infinite place to dwell, a heaven or a hell in Christianity. Either an infinite dwelling with the Creator or an infinite dwelling without the Creator, which is summed up as hell and the lakes of fire and so on. Yet, there is one verse again in Paul in the New Testament where he says, I, the eyeball, he's talking, says, the eye has not seen nor ear heard of all the things and the glories that await us in the afterlife. And so he's saying all the things that are told to us, it goes beyond our conception. We can't even conceive what the afterlife is. And this is, of course, on a faith level, on a religious level. It says, eye has not seen nor ear heard what has been prepared for us, but God has revealed it to us by the caliber or the quality of his love for us. And so that's the gauge that we're supposed to have. That gauge is something that is measured by the way we perceive God's love toward us. That should tell us what's there. But again, That's all on a faith or a religious basis. So it's something science wants an answer, wants a black and white. Some of these things aren't in black and white. There are also some veils that we cannot pierce as humans. We'll just never know. In Einstein's younger days, as he was beginning to ponder for himself about the nature of God and the universe, he recalled thinking, and this is a quote of he says, out yonder, there was this huge world which exists independently of us human beings and which stands before us like a great eternal riddle, at least partially accessible to our inspection and thinking. So some scientists, however, have taken it upon themselves to declare definitively that there is no life after death, giving no accreditation for human experience throughout our existence. Human experience is anecdotal, we are told. Your experience is trumped by my science, a scientist might say. So the laws of physics are completely understood, so far as we can measure them. Dr. Sean Carroll, who's a cosmologist and a physics professor at the California Institute of Technology, stated that the laws of physics underlying everyday life are completely understood, and everything that happens to us must therefore be within the boundaries as set by our physical selves alone. That's the stretch, the limits, the boundaries he has placed on his scientific understanding. So in order for there to be an afterlife, he holds, human consciousness would have to be something that's entirely separated from our physical body, which indeed decays and dies. And Carroll maintains that it's not. So that our consciousness, if it is part of who we are, it decays with the body, according to him. Our minds and consciousness, Carroll avers, are nothing more than a collection of atoms and electrons, which essentially give us our mind. The laws of the universe don't allow these particles to operate after our physical demise, according to Dr. Carroll. He states, claims that some form of consciousness persists after our bodies die and decay into their constituent atoms face one huge, insuperable obstacle. The laws of physics underlying everyday life are completely understood, and there's no way within those laws to allow for the information stored in our brains to persist after we die. That's what he says. That is his contention. That consciousness, he like some scientists, he doesn't say it doesn't exist, but he says it exists within the mind, and the mind is a physical thing, chemicals, stimuli that make it work. Carroll believes that the quantum field theory, the QFT, the theory that there is one field for each type of particle, explains how the existence of an afterlife or an eternal soul is absolutely impossible. As an example, all the protons or the photons in the universe are on one level, and all the electrons and every other kind of particle also have their own fields. And Carroll states that if life did go on in some way after our physical deaths, experiments in the quantum field would have already shown the existence of spirit particles and spirit forces. As he says in an article for Scientific American, if it's really nothing but atoms and the known forces, there is clearly no way for the soul to survive death. That's his scientific take. It seems so overly simplistic to me to simply state in contradiction to him that I believe the soul or the spirit is a different thing than the body. The soul might imbue the body with certain attributes and aspects, but the soul is what lives on. The body decays. Believing in life after death, to put it mildly, requires physics beyond the standard model, he said. Most importantly, we need some way for that new physics to interact with the atoms that we do have. And Carroll believes that if this is understood by all scientists, it can be a way forward. in creating this new understanding of just how the human mind functions. And he concludes his thoughts in his writings. There is no reason to be agnostic about ideas that are dramatically incompatible with everything we know about modern science. But see, I chuckle at that only because here is a scientist telling me there's no reason I should be agnostic, not atheist even, agnostic. I don't know what to believe. There's no reason you should not know what to believe about ideas that are dramatically incompatible with everything we know about modern science. So the case for life after death for him begins and ends with what science can tell us about the brain. So, what about this whole thing about life after death, though? Let's start steering it in a little slightly different direction. As we grow older, we start to face our own mortality, as I talked about at the beginning of this show. The death of my good friend, who was younger than me. Deaths of other people that I know that have gone on, it's been very deep for me. We see those things. I know there's some of you here. Leslie lost a son. Morgan, if she's in here, lost her husband. There's not a one of us that has not been touched by death. And if you have not yet been touched by it, stand by, is all I have to say, because it touches everybody. But as we grow older and we start to face our own mortality, that comes through the fact that we see it happening around us. I see myself growing older. I'm not elderly by any means, but I'm definitely older. I said to Rainey the other day, I said, I think it's funny. We were driving somewhere, and I said, I think it's funny that I see all these pictures and photos on Facebook and social media of people I went to high school and college with, which is, I went to college in 1978. So we're talking damn close to 50 years ago, 45 years ago. But I still feel 26 in my mind. But I look at all these pictures of my old friends, and sorry if any of you are listening, no offense, but I look at all those pictures and go, wow, she sure got old. Or wow, he sure got old. And then you sit back and you go, wait a minute, I suppose I look the same way to them. I have a lot of old friends from high school that look like grandmas and grandpas. Maybe I do too. So that's the grasping mortality. Our thoughts can turn often more to the question of whether there's life after death, and indeed what that might look like the older we get. We have to ask questions. We start asking more questions, maybe even if it's only in our own mind. But as we grow older, we start to face our own mortality. Our thoughts can turn to questioning whether there's life after death. Is this all there is? Remember the old Jack Nicholson movie with, I can't think of his name, the actor. Why I can't think of his name, I don't know. And Helen Hunt was in it. As good as it gets. There's some point in the movie, he's aging, and he asks the question, is this as good as it gets? And we start thinking about that. We start thinking about what life and death looks like. In Shakespeare's Hamlet, I love Shakespeare, by the way, and I didn't do it tonight, but I've got sitting here. He was sitting right. Oh, it's right here. I got this deck of cards I brought up the other day. Quotable Shakespeare. We'll do some of these in some of our upcoming shows. Start the show off with a quotable Shakespeare. But is in Hamlet, there was this puzzlement at the undiscovered country. And if any of you are Star Trek fans, remember Star Trek 5 was subtitled The Undiscovered Country. It was a quote from Hamlet. And you notice there are other Hamlet quotes in that movie. If you did not notice that. But it's brought up with the main adversary in the show and so on. But it's heavy in the show. But the undiscovered country, it's a term used to describe what lies beyond life, the undiscovered. When the titular character in Hamlet muses on the state after death, he says this. Now, this is Hamlet. Here's a little Shakespeare for you, folks. Hamlet, Act 3, Scene 1. Hamlet says, "But that the dread of something after death, the undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveler returns, puzzles the will, and it makes us rather bear those ills we have than fly to others that we've known not of. Thus conscience does make cowards of us all." It's Hamlet. Some people think of death as a way out. In the above verse, Hamlet contemplated suicide as a means to escape a huge moral dilemma that he got himself into. Earlier in the play, it's like I saw, did somebody send this to me? It was something about Hamlet, where Hamlet is, he's going to go bury the body of the king. And Ophelia, his love, comes to him and says, in this little comic strip, she says, "Hey, Hamlet, come on inside with me." And she says, "My dad's not home." He says, "Yeah, I know." He's burying the body. But Hamlet looks at suicide as a way to get out of things. Earlier in the play, he thinks death may be a way to find peace, saying to die, to sleep. But then he changes his mind again and becomes fearful of dying, speaking of the undiscovered country from where no traveler has ever returned, to express the enormity of choosing to enter such a great unknown. This unexplored country doesn't comfort Hamlet, but it fills him with the dread of something that's coming after his death. And this fear of dying can either be fear of a nothingness or of, in fact, an eternal life. And Hamlet seems to experience both of these fears. And it might be worth remembering that if we leave our fears unspoken or speak them only to ourselves, as Hamlet does, then we're going to be unable to receive support from the loved ones that we have in this very difficult and personal struggle. So if you remain unspoken and you dwell on it, this is what Hamlet's doing. He's facing the undiscovered country. There's a Reverend Andrew Goodhead. He's a chaplain to St. Christopher's Hospice. And he was asked about the big questions very often and says it's important that these questions are expressed. He says, even if the response coming from the person sitting, listening with them, is just to acknowledge how big these questions are. The common questions he's asked as a chaplain are, is there a God? If there's a heaven, is there a hell? Will I get into heaven? How do I get into heaven? Have I done enough to make sure I get there? And so instead of rushing to provide answers or dismissing questions as unimportant, Reverend Andrew suggests that it's useful to find out what might have prompted the question in the first place. He said, sometimes I'll say, what is it that makes you think you might not get to heaven? And allow the person to respond to that. I would ask us all the same thing. If we believe there's a heaven, what makes us think that we won't go there? And then open up the conversation about, what do you think heaven is like? Do you think that sometimes the way we think about the afterlife is much more in our own construct than the way in which it actually is? Don't you think that God might rather be more generous to us than we're allowing him to be? But of course, if you are in a Christian religion, especially if you are in evangelical Christianity, that question has nothing to do with God being generous, has nothing to do with how good we are or bad we are. It all has to do with the whole Jewish concept that started in the Garden of Eden and all through the Old Testament, through the New Testament, is the kinsman redeemer, the one who would be one of us redeemer. And the idea is that, biblically speaking, what I was taught in my theology when I was in seminary and in that faith was that there's nothing good we can do to gain God's favor. Our goodness comes out of having it. There's nothing good we can do to earn it. I used to use the example. Now, this is within a Christian argument, folks, so bear with me. I would say if I could do something to earn heaven, if I can pay for it by my goodnesses, why did Christ have to die for my sins? That would seem to be an empty gesture if it didn't take his death to get me there. So that was the argument we would use. And I still think about that at times. If you're Christian, that's going to plague your mind now. I want you to think about that. We also ask big questions after death of a spouse or a close friend like Uncle Dave. We question these things. We wonder how we're going to adjust to life without that significant person in our lives. This same Reverend Andrew, in his role as a hospice chaplain, says, unless we're willing to hear and answer the big questions, we're not doing our job properly. None of us are doing our job. And he encourages people to talk about these things long before imminent death of a loved one prompts the conversation. Long before you might be dealing with the possibility of your own death. Deal with it now. What did Solomon say in the Old Testament? He basically wrote in the book of Ecclesiastes, I've experienced everything. I've lived my life the way I've wanted to. There have been no limits on anything I ever. He was the richest man in the world. He was a king. He was a diplomat. He was all these things. So there's nothing that I wanted that I withheld my hand from. And he says, what it all comes down to me is that all is vanity. Life, he said, springs up like the grass and withers in the midday sun. It's a very depressing book if you read it. He has some good points in there. Toward the end, in the last part of the book, he says, the conclusion I've come is remember your Creator in the days of your youth before the evil days come, and it's even harder. So think about all of this stuff. It doesn't have to be about a creator. It can be about what is out there. What do I have to experience? What am I supposed to be doing? Where should I go next? What should I be doing next? Living through life when dying seems a long way off can put off the questions about have I done enough to get into heaven? Have I done enough to prepare myself to think about where I'm going? What's next? Or the question of, have I been good enough? Instead, the way we lived was formed by these questions. We could approach death with a peace of mind. And of course, we've already talked about it, but there's the Christian perspective. We don't have to go into that too deep. We all know that Christians believe that Jesus is the revealed Son of God, or the person of God, if you will. What are Jesus' personal pronouns? I think he, him, and God. And so we take hope in that. Christians believe heaven will be like a certain thing. Hamlet dreads the afterlife because he doesn't know what it'll be like. Others fear it because of the idea that it's an eternal existence. Pope Francis, now I'm not Catholic, and sometimes I just listen when the Pope talks, I die, well, there's more poop from the Pope. But Pope Francis addressed this whole fear of what heaven is to be like as a practical experience. He said, so what's heaven? Some ask. There we begin to be unsure in our response. We don't know how to best explain heaven. Often we picture an abstract and distant heaven-like thing floating on a cloud, playing a harp. Is that what you want to do for all eternity? I think there's going to be more. There's supposed to be more to it than that. Valhalla. the happy hunting ground, as Reuben would say and remind us. And some think, but won't it be boring there for all eternity? No, said the Pope, that's not eternity. That's not heaven. We're on a path toward an encounter, the final meeting with God, with Jesus. This is, of course, from the Pope's perspective. Heaven will be this encounter, this meeting with the Lord who went ahead to prepare a place for each of us. And this increases our faith. Now, did he actually answer the question? What's heaven like? No. So we have an encounter there. What's meant by the resurrection of the body? I know this was a foreign concept in Judaism, but it was picked up by Christianity, a sect of Judaism. Many believe that the afterlife is a purely spiritual experience, but Christian tradition has always stated that the afterlife is a physical experience too. There's a Father Peter Harries, the lead chaplain at the University College London Hospital. He explains to people Christian tradition of the resurrection of the body and eternal life, rather than just survival of some essence or some meaning living on in the memories of others, is where it's at. St. Paul, in his letter to the Romans, writes that we have our confidence of a resurrection of both body and soul from the resurrection of Jesus. It's supposed to be a picture of what happens. Paul said, now, if we died with Christ, we believe that we'll also live with him. For we know that since Christ was raised from the dead, he cannot die again. Death no longer has mastery over him. The death he died to sin once for all, but the life he lives to God. Now, that we'll tie that knot there. That is the Christian perspective of life after death. What are we to expect? If you're a Christian, there's a pretty basic set of criteria, rules, attributes that you follow, and that tells you what's there. Does any of that still make you question? If you're a Christian and you believe these things, you have a faith in that, do you still question it? Our faith can we can question. Our faith is made up of questions. Richard Feynman, I bring him up all the time, said, for me to doubt and ask questions, he says, that's how it works for me. I have to do those things. Then I come to that quote from Tolkien, from The Return of the King, where Gandalf is, I think he's saying to Pippin. He said, Pippin asks about, oh, this is the end. Then death, it's the end. We're going to die. And Gandalf responds, end? He says, no, the journey doesn't end here. He says, death is just another path, one that we all must take. The gray rain curtain of this world rolls back and all turns to silver glass. And then you see it. White shores, and beyond a far green country under a swift sunrise. That was Gandalf to Pippin. So death. What does it mean? Where is it? It's a great mystery, isn't it? We say we have a faith and we say we believe certain things by our faith, but do we really? Believing means I have no questions. Believing, well, no, it doesn't. I take that back. Believing means that we choose to not question. But it's still a great mystery about what happens to us. What happens to us after we die? Human beings have been asking that forever. It's like this big matzo ball of an existential question, isn't it? To wax a little Yiddish there on you. Jewish. Since we stood upright and stopped dragging our knuckles in the primordial goo, we've asked that question. Imagine what they thought of death thousands of years ago, at the dawn of mankind, when your family members started to die, somebody died in battle or run over by a bull, whatever it might be, while hunting, got a cold and died. Those questions came up. Do we fade into nothingness or non-existence? Do we reawaken as crying newly born infants or animals in this karmic cycle of reincarnation? Or maybe there's that white light that we hear so much about on all the talk shows, talking heads, and the books and the stories, with its warm glow and the welcoming smiles of long dead relatives. Perhaps we'll see Peter as a celestial maitre d', checking to see if we've got our reservations for the kingdom of heaven. Table for one. Whatever one's individual's beliefs are, it seems that human beings are positively obsessed with the question of what happens when the screen fades to black. Now, we might not live that every day, but when we're jiggled into having to think about it, we think about it, don't we? But why is this? Why does the question of what happens after we die haunt us so much? Pardon the pun. There's a book I looked at. I haven't read the whole thing. How Plato and Pythagoras Can Save Your Life. And it's by Nicholas Kardaras. He's a psychologist, I believe. In that book, he discusses the notion that human beings are uniquely able to contemplate that question about death and life after, because we're the only species that can use our minds to travel through time and project into the future. And what do we find in said future? Our inevitable death. Not to be morbid, we just all know it's a fact. It's a fact of life. I don't think it's morbid to say, I'm going to die someday. Eeyore our way through life. That doesn't have to be a negative. I'm going to die someday. We all know that. I don't think there's any one of us that, when we think about it, even if you don't think about it much, it believes that we're not going to die someday. Not me. I'm not dying. So, but we're the only species that can understand that. What do we find there? Our inevitable deaths. And that scares the hell out of us, pun intended. Or some might argue that scares the hell into us. And heaven. So, Pulitzer Prize-winning author Ernest Becker had written in his seminal work, The Denial of Death, that in essence, the sum of all human endeavor, our art, our architecture, our religions, our relationships, our procreation, are all just desperate attempts to deny our own mortality and thus soothe our terror. What psychologists call thanatos anxiety, the terror of death, over the possibility that there's nothing more beyond the physical realm. You know, if I was convinced that there was nothing beyond this life, I wouldn't worry about death. I might worry about my legacy, the things I leave behind. Why do you think I write books? Why do you think I do this show? I say I don't keep a diary. I have this show for the last 22 years. Shares my thoughts. It's out there for posterity. And the popular wisdom seems to be that we'll never really know what happens post-mortem because no one has ever come back to tell the tale. Which, as we all know, especially if you watch this show, that might not be entirely true. There probably are people who come back to tell us what it's like. I've had people who were immured in the religion I was in. The very fundamentalist, conservative Baptist view of heaven and hell and life after death and so on, and salvation and Jesus being the only way, that have spoken to me through psychic mediums. I've mentioned this story before, so I won't tell the long story, but I had mediums, Michael and Marty Perry. You've seen them on some of the shows. We were all doing an event together We were all speaking, and this is back in 2010, I want to say. And I went up to their room, and they gave me a reading. And he saw my mentor, a man named Bill Fisher, a man who was the age I am now when he met me as an 11-year-old kid and invited me to come to church. And I became a born-again, saved, baptized Christian. That started half of my life was spent in that religion and going into ministry and so on. And this medium, Michael, got a hold of who I believe was Bill. Bill or somebody imitating him to deceive me, which is what Christianity will say that all is, who said to me, and he gave certain indicators that Michael wouldn't have known about who he was, so I would have recognized him. I'm not going to get into those details right now, although I've told that story before, but I asked him what it was like over there, and he said it's very different than what I thought it would be. And I've had a couple of people who passed on through different psychic mediums, and believe me, I don't go out asking psychic mediums these questions just for the fun of it. It's because of what I did when I was the editor of Taps Para magazine, when I was the doing all these radio shows, and all the people I interview. I used to get a lot of psychics that would want to do readings for me. And they would all bring up kind of that same thing. Here's this person who came forward, and I recognized who it was. They wouldn't have known who it was. And they said it's different than what we thought it was going to be over here. And I'm happy. And I thought, well, that's very interesting. So we've got about 5 minutes left at the radio audience. So let me see if I can get through some of this. So it's not entirely true that no one's ever been there to tell the tale. And you have to believe what you're hearing. So beyond the stories, and by the way, I do have to put this caveat on it. Nobody has come and sat in that chair across from my desk, crossed their leg, cracked a beer, had a stout pipe with me, and said, hey, I know I'm dead. To you, I died, but I'm back. I want to tell you about it. I don't think anybody has had those experiences that are that solid. Now, some of us might say we have. Sorry. Don't want to trounce your experience. But we don't have proof of that. We have anecdotal experience. It's where I put these psychic experiences as well, and the dreams and things like that. So beyond the stories of people who've had near-death experiences, NDEs, that have been documented by psychologists like Raymond Moody in his book Life After Life, Kenneth Ring in his book Mindsight. There are also well-documented and rigorously researched cases of children who, without the benefit of near-death experiences or the aid of hypnotic regression, spontaneously and vividly recall past lives. We've talked about those on this show in the past. In these cases, we're not talking about kids remembering being, I was Cleopatra, I was Napoleon. No, we're talking about children having veridical or documentable as accurate, specific memories of people that were fairly recently deceased, from several months to several years. Uncle Dave and I talked about this in the captain's cabin. And oftentimes, these memories include names of relatives, including parents, siblings, names of villages, districts where they'd lived, memories of their prior occupations, and most compellingly, very precise and accurate descriptions of the causes of their prior death. And most startling of all these cases, where there are actual birthmarks or congenital birth defects on the child that correlate to the cause of death, oftentimes traumatic nature, in the earlier incarnation. As difficult as this is for many to believe, these cases, over 3,000 of them, have been exhaustively documented. What most people don't know is that this is academically rigorous reincarnation research. It's been going on at major U.S. universities for 40 plus years. There's all kinds of stuff I could tell you about the books that are written, the studies they've done. All of this stuff that suggests reincarnation, does any of that prove that there's life after death? We still are left with drawing our own conclusions. There's an incredible amount of research that indicates that consciousness can manifest independent of the body. This includes what's known as distant mental influence on living systems, or DMILs. All kinds of things like that. I'm looking at my clock for the radio audience. So all of the proof that's out there, all of the studies, the research, the skeptic's going to still say, so what? Even if I grant that those experiments are sound, what does the pH level of water getting lowered or raised by meditative thought have to do with the question of life after death? Power of the brain. Well, if any of this is this voluminous research is accurate, any part of it at all, then we'd have to conclude that the mechanistic, materialistic paradigm by which we understand our universe precludes any metaphysical reality. Anything that precludes that is a faulty paradigm. And we're at the end of the show for the radio audience. Folks, stay tuned. I'm going to be right back. Radio audience, thank you for being here. Live long and prosper. Stick around for the Captain's Cabin.
Join us every weeknight at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern. The Intrepid radio program, a Scotty Roberts Productions broadcast.
Hey folks, this is Scotty Roberts, and this is the Intrepid radio broadcast. I've been broadcasting for about 20 years now, covering such topics as science, politics, the paranormal, weird science, weird world history, archaeology, and the paranormal. Everything from ghosts to cryptids to creepy things that go bump in the night. So every week I bring you 3 new episodes. Come and join my channel and also be a patron to this site. So see the details below, and we'll see you here. All right, folks, we're back. Thanks for sticking around. It's the Captain's Cabin, thusly named by you. You're not interrupting or anything, are you? So my 8-year-old child, still learning the nuances of not interrupting during the show. And I was on with Kenny Ballos on Morning Coffee with KB yesterday for a few minutes and this morning for a few minutes. And my daughter interrupted us both times. So there you go. And yeah, welcome back. We don't do this as often anymore because we do have a Captain's Cabin still in the post show, but when it's broadcasting through Patreon, it's not as open to so many callers. So you can come on over to Patreon anytime and be part of it. It's real easy to do. So let's see. Did I just see Ellery? Yes, Barbie D, you saw an Ellery sighting. There she was. She tried to come in a couple of times during the show. And I don't know if you see me, I do this. Yeah, you can barely see it. You see my arm going up? That's me going like this to her. Hey, not now. And but that's what she does. Yeah, you're right, Rudy. That's her job. That's what they do. And so so it's nice to see you all here. I didn't want to go super late tonight, and I can't because I've got to go pick up my daughter at 10:30 from swimming outing she did with friends, and so I got to go get her. They're over in the next town, which is about 10-minute drive, well, almost 15-minute drive from here. So I'll have to go get her by. I told her I'd be doing radio till about 10:30, and then I'd come and get her. So as a matter of fact, I should type to Rainey. I am going to pick up Rowan at 10:30. All right, there we go. Now Rainey should know if she sees that. So let me text her as well. Just bear with me, folks. This is something I got to do. I don't know if she knows that I'll be running out and getting her, but let's see. Where is she on my phone? Right there. I am going to pick, isn't this riveting radio? Pick up Rowan at 10:30. There. Now that's done. Bing, bang, boom. Out of the way. So how's all your days going? How's everybody been? Glad that you're here. Glad that you give me your time. I appreciate that. What's going on? We've almost forgotten how to talk in the chat room here because we don't do it quite as often. Or at least I have. I've got to look back and see what everybody's saying. And yes, folks, we are live tonight, if you didn't know that. And so I just want to go through a quick rundown here. Valerie, good to see you. I miss my kids being small. They're 24 and 22 now. Man, I am right there with you. My oldest daughters, my twins, as you all know, I've mentioned it 100 times. They're 31. My son Sam is just 22. Flynn is 14. Rowan is 11. Even Rowan at 11. I miss her little pixie self, version of herself at 2, 3, and 4. Such great time. And Ellery, whoosh. When she was 2, 3, and 4, she was sweet and cute and all. And now she's just pushy and fun, but pushy. So she's gathered everything from the previous 5, and it's become an amalgam of who she is. So, yeah, but I miss them being little. Kenny Bello says, Speedo King of Virginia Beach is watching as well. Hey, Terry, let's see, Ken is fixated with that. But I'm glad you're here. I did see your name pass by earlier. I was going to say, hey. So, Barbie D, good to see you. And Sean Holt, of course, very good to see you. Busy wedding this weekend, then getting ready for some Viking reenactment and festivals later this autumn. Are you doing Minnesota Festival this year, Sean? Maybe that's the Viking reenactment. That starts, the Minnesota Renaissance Festival starts this coming weekend. And it runs for 7 or 8 weekends now, maybe 9 now. Yeah, what's a vacation, says Sean Stroik. Yeah, that's about it. You know, we do a lot of traveling and moving around, but very little for vacation. Rainey and I, and we were talking today, we rarely have ever had a chance to just get away. Since we've been married, we haven't taken a big trip or a vacation. We've been together for 18 years. In 2007, we went to D.C. It was for business. I had to meet with a publisher through my agent, but they were old friends of mine, my agent, and so we spent time in Virginia. And Rainey and I went to, we stopped in D.C. on the way out there, and we visited stuff in D.C. We walked the mall in D.C. We went to Thomas Jefferson's home in Charlottesville, Monticello, and had a great time there. We went to Colonial Williamsburg while we were out there. Had a great time there. We went with our friends to Colonial Williamsburg. And then we took one of our days and we drove only about 30 miles from Lynchburg is Appomattox Courthouse. How many of you, without looking it up, just quick test, quick quiz, how many of you know what happened at Appomattox Courthouse? Sean says, no, we don't do fest anymore. Midwest Viking Fest in Green Bay, Wisconsin, then a local Viking festival that Dave was cooking the fest for. Yeah. Yeah, Dave was known for that. What happened at Appomattox Courthouse? Anybody? Anybody? Bueller? Bueller? You went everywhere, but not my house, said Sarah. No, we didn't go to your house. Have to do that. Yep, Lee surrenders. That's it, Barbie D. Lee surrendered, says Ken Ballos too. Yep, Appomattox Courthouse was where Robert E. Lee surrendered in the parlor of a house there to Ulysses S. Grant. Sorry, Sean. Now you know. Kenny Ballos and Barbie D both answered that question. And you can still go visit that place today. It's all preserved, the little town there. And it's all a museum, these several buildings, like a dozen buildings there or something. And they routed the highway around it. It's a state park. I don't know, it might be a national park, but I think it's a Virginia state park for sure. And so you can go walk right in the parlor. Some of the furniture is still there. They got of course, the velvet cords up so you can't cross over into the room, but you can look at it where the surrender took place. And you can see they have old, like not quite billboard size, but huge, like if our memory serves, like 6 foot wide photographs that are blown up of the troops, the Confederate troops, the Union troops that were gathered there during the surrender. And you can see the troops and the cannons, and behind them, you can see the road going down and up a hill in the distance. That's the old Lynchburg Road. Well, they've got that set up in such a place, you just look beyond the sign, you can see the freeway going right there, right in the same place. And it's like, so the old Lynchburg Road is now the interstate that goes through there. And you take that down to Lynchburg, 25-minute drive. So that was pretty cool. But so the point is that Rainey and I, we took that trip in 2007. And we took a trip, where else did we go? Oh, we went to, and it was a working trip. I was doing tarot readings and speaking at an event at the Stanley. She brought down her massage chair and did massages there. And that was in like 2007, I think, that we did that. 2008, somewhere right in there. So very early on, we did a few things. We didn't travel abroad like we'd like to. After the birth of our first two children, Flynn and Rowan, we were kind of planning that, hey, I'm going to Egypt again next year. We're going to plan a new trip. I'd been twice already. And I said, I want you to come along on this next trip. No, it was after the first trip. And then she ended up getting pregnant. How'd that happen? And that kind of dashed our plans because the trip would have been during her third trimester. We just didn't want to do that. So we didn't take that trip. And then money, always a roller coaster. There's never been a lot of time to do anything. Even the last 3 summers, we've tried to do camping trips, and they're always kiboshed by either, well, it was COVID. Then we were going to go to New York and see the Star Trek sets and Fort Ticonderoga and do stuff like that. That got kiboshed because gas prices went through the ceiling last summer. And it was like it would have cost us just $1,000 in gas to go there. And I think that might have been each way. And we thought, well, that's out. That nixes that. So we haven't had the opportunities we wanted to go do stuff. And so I don't even remember why I brought that up about trips and stuff. But vacations. We're talking about vacation. Yeah, we need vacation. Rainey and I need to take a trip. That's for sure. So we'll see what happens. So Sean says, I blame that on you, Scotty Roberts. At least half. Yeah, it is. So last summer, all the opportunities to try to do a camping trip, always, and I don't say this with so much, it sounds negative, I don't mean it, preempted by scouts. Always scouting stuff. And always stuff that we had to have money for to do something else. And so it was easier for Rainey to go to Alaska to visit her sister. She took Flynn up there for 2 weeks. The year before that, she went up for a month. And she went up for 2 weeks, and then she wasn't ready to come home. I said, tell you what, let's just get another 2 weeks. We extended her flights out, so she got to stay up there for a month. And gets her a break. She and I have not had much of a break together since we've been married. Just hasn't happened. We keep trying to plan stuff with the kids. It hasn't happened. Sarah, you're right. Death has a way of making you look backward and forward. So it does. Hey, Captain Barbados is here, sitting in the wings. Let's bring him in.
Hey, good night, Scotty.
Sorry, Matthew. I had Michael.
No problem.
How you doing, brother?
You had a very good program tonight, and interesting topic. Yeah, because I've seen a lot of that in my life. Issue of death and things like that. So
yeah,
there's a topic. Yeah, that was deserved to be discussed.
Yeah, because the unknown. Because it's something we all think about in one respect or another. There's Field Guy, by the way, beardless.
Yeah, good night, Field Guy.
Yeah. Greetings. Yes.
How you doing, Field Guy?
Doing good. I just saw you on a few minutes ago.
Oh, yeah, I put up an announcement earlier, but you got to see the announcements in order for that to work.
Yeah, Facebook for me is like 3 days late. I check it and I go, oh, okay.
Does YouTube still send out announcements?
They do, but I was watching something else on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
I checked for you. See, I checked for you Monday, and you wasn't on YouTube Monday, so I figured, well, he's not going to be on YouTube tonight. And sure enough, you were.
I'm random that way.
KB wants the link.
Oh, put the link up to call in. Yes. Let's see. Let me copy.
It's always in the bottom of the description.
Here's the link. Yeah, I got to scroll down in the description. It's there.
Riff
but here's the link. If you're sitting on a phone, that's sometimes hard to do. There is the link, folks. If you want to call into the show, you are welcome to call in. I can't stay much longer, though. I got about 10, 15 minutes tops, and I got to go get my kid. So who
Which
is at a friend's house. So I got no response from Rainey, I think, either place. So I think she knows I'm going.
Oh. A quick note. Did y'all know Scotty was Santa? See?
I was what?
Nice.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's that card. That's pretty crazy. Here's
supposed to replicate a 1953 card.
Yes.
So it's got the batting stats on the back. Santa
Claus. What's my batting average? It's Santa.
Let me see.
St. Nicholas.
Your
100.
batting average is 357 lifetime.
Oh, there you go.
He was I heard that he was a backdoor Santa. I don't know if it's true or not.
Yeah.
Santa went to the DL with a sprained
Can't talk
knee.
about that. Let's see. Sarah says, is there anything else you want to share about Uncle Dave's funeral? Probably not too much. I can. I might put up the link. There is a link from the Presbyterian service. It's about an hour long that somebody sent me. It's a nice, beautiful little service. The celebration of life was videoed. I haven't seen anything come through on that quite yet, though. See you, Rudy. Good to have you here tonight.
If that would have been New Orleans, you would have had a second line dance because they do second line dancing in New Orleans.
The line dances.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Deborah Sloan. Good to see you. Yes, child. Can I buy you something, Afshin? No. See, you notice the common thread here with my children?
Can I have something?
No, not tonight.
It's only $36.
It's only $36, folks.
Only?
Only. No, I can't do that tonight. So, but if it's back to school clothes, your mom and I will talk about what we need to do for that. But I'm not going to talk about it right now. Okay, I'm here. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you guys.
Because I touched something on my soundboard while she was talking and I was talking, and I thought I heard a zzz. I thought, oh, what was that? Did I burn something out? Apparently not. It was something else. So, anyway, there you go. Hey, you're being just disruptive. Why don't you go do something else? It's 10:15 at night. What are you doing awake? Go to bed. I can't do that while I'm on radio. So she sits up, though. You know, everybody else goes to sleep. I can get up and I should be sitting and watching TV. And they like to brag about, I didn't go to sleep until 4 a.m. I'm like, well, la-di-da for you. You know.
I do that all the time. It don't
still
bother
have to
me.
do your chores.
Yeah.
So what's going on with you, Kenny? Tell me something new and exciting.
Like I said, my voice is coming back. Like I said, it breaks up like I'm going through puberty, but the voice is coming back, and it's a good thing. You know?
That's good.
It's a great thing. It really is.
Yes. And I know it's been good seeing you in the mornings again on a regular basis.
It's good to be back. Like I said before, I couldn't really talk because, like I said, the voice is so bad. It's hard to talk, and you get frustrated. So I took off a little bit. And, of course, you and Mike and all you guys filled in for me, which was great. You know.
That's good. That's good.
I appreciate it.
I got to bring in. I got my brother Sean Holt here. Let's bring him in. Hey, Sean, how you doing, brother?
Good night to you, Sean.
Sean, can you hear me?
Good. How you doing?
There you are. Either a delay or you can't hear me. I'm not sure which it is.
I can hear you.
Oh, there we go. Might be a delay. I'm not sure why. Are you over on, Sean, are you in YouTube or are you on Facebook? Facebook will give you a bigger delay, but I can't. I'm looking to see where you are here. I don't even see you here in the chat now.
The StreamYard.
Oh, you're over in the StreamYard? I think there's a big delay going on there.
StreamYard has been really glitchy lately, like 10, 15-second delay. They just updated something. Yeah, it was happening to me last week. And when you're in the StreamYard side, sometimes you can't see the comments right now.
Hey, Sean, maybe try going out and coming back in. He'll catch that in about 30 seconds. Maybe.
I was watching a documentary. Yeah, I was watching a documentary recently about
Yeah, Sean and I kind of look alike. I'm the better looking twin. Oh, he's gone.
Yeah.
Oh, you sound like my brother.
Yeah.
That sounds like my brother.
He's a lot younger than I am, Sean is. Well, not a lot, but young enough. And I've known him from festival for almost 20 years. So,
yeah,
so I guess he's in his 40s anyway.
Yeah. I was recently watching a documentary where they were talking about a house in I think it's U.S. Virgin Islands.
U.S. Virgin Islands.
Yeah, and apparently they said that the guy who owned the house, he was married to a lady and so, but her death totally disturbed him in such a way that he took his life. And the lady who came into the house afterwards, years later, she was resting in bed. She saw the guy, a visual apparition of a guy appearing in a long white shirt and long white pants and a white hat. And she thought at first it was just her imagination or something, or just that sometimes when you come out of sleep, you might sometimes see something that really isn't there. But it kept, and then her son came in, ran in, and then actually saw the apparition. And when the son got older, he searched the house and he did some research in the house, and he actually found a photograph of what the apparition that he saw, the same white hat and the same white shirt and white pants, and learned that this guy had took his life because of his wife's death. So, some people, when people think that people commit suicide, some people think that they go straight into hell or something like that. But we don't, we can't ascertain exactly what actually happens, you see. So that's the thing.
Yeah.
The afterlife, yeah.
That's wild. And there's all kinds of stories like that. We all have those anecdotal stories. We all have stories like that go on, but it's something that we still can't prove, even though we've got all these proofs that we could line up. So, by the way, Sean, if you can hear me, keep trying. Sean Holt, still super delayed. I'm not sure why that is. But Field Guy was telling me here that sometimes it depends on how you're getting into the show. But if you're clicking on the link I give you, that should be bringing you into StreamYard. So
StreamYard is I know the last time I streamed, I think 3 or 4 nights ago, it was really glitchy. There was like a 20 to 30 second delay.
Yeah.
Like in my stream and other streams, there was a delay because I think they updated a bunch of things. So it's probably StreamYard.
It's kind of funny, though, that none of you are delayed, but Sean's delayed. It's only it's being picky and choosy. It's delaying Sean. So,
well, is he coming through the YouTube side or the StreamYard side? Because you could have one section up, both of them up. So
well, that's true. But I put the link I put up is StreamYard.
Yeah, true.
So, Sarah says life is supposed to be a gift. Life experience is what separates the humane from the inhumane. That's there's truth to that. Life experience separates the humane from the inhumane. Very true. Or as we saw with some of the scientists I was quoting tonight. Science, there are certain scientists, they'll have a dogmatic opinion about something, as dogmatic as religion.
Yeah.
And I have often said that science is in its eradication of religion, establishes itself as its own religion. It's the surrogate for religion. Here's Uncle John. Uncle John, how you doing?
Good night to you.
How are you folks?
Good to see you.
We're hanging in there. Yeah.
So
I saw the subject and I said, I'd better log in.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, I've only got a few minutes left, I hate to say. I've got to take off early tonight. I got to go pick up my kid.
That's okay.
Who's the next town over. Yes, Sarah, time. It's now 10:27. Let's try Sean one more time. Sean, are you with us live?
Just one more time.
There you are. Are you hearing me?
Hello, Sean.
If you can hear me, raise a finger. There we are. Good.
Yeah.
Good choice.
I'm here. I'm here.
Yes.
Hey, John, how you doing, bud?
That
I'm
was weird. I
okay.
hate that. Sorry about that.
Getting better.
Good.
You're right,
That's
Deborah Sloan. Nobody wants to admit they're wrong. The scientists, they don't want to admit they're wrong. So
Yeah, because I was watching a program today. There's a Christian scientist named Dr. Hugh Ross. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but
yes,
he was discussing about the whole UFO discussion that's been coming out, and he wanted to say that that he believed that some of these things may actually just be fallen angels going through our dimension to deceive people and so. But he was keeping a clear mind and another guy's perspective what they could be, So that's the thing about it, because when it comes to discovering beings that may not be human from another
Yes.
realm or another galaxy, it's a big thing that would turn beliefs all the way around. You see, so
yeah,
make more questions.
yeah.
All right.
By the way, Sean, since you're new here, this is the captain's cabin, which is, if you've seen the show before, this is the informal part of the show, the post show. So we get a little less formal here, but to kind of introduce you around this little horn right here, we've got Captain Barbados, and that's Michael. Michael, I keep saying Michael tonight. Matthew Sainsbury, he's in Barbados, and then we've got Field Guy down in New Orleans.
Who that?
And then we got Uncle John down in Rochester, and we got KB Kenny Bellows down in Richmond, Virginia.
Yeah, down in Mechanicsville.
And he ain't afeard. He ain't afeard to be here.
Oh, believe me. No fear.
And then Sean, of course, is here close to where I live in Minnesota. So
there you go.
Far away.
Wow, we've got such a nice panel tonight, and I got to leave early. That really that blows.
Yeah.
Did you guys get an opportunity to catch the live stream of the funeral?
I saw the video.
Uncle Dave.
Of course, I was there, but anybody see the live streams? Anybody catch the live stream?
I never knew that was today.
Itself?
Scotty at his best.
Oh,
Thank you, Scotty.
well, thank you, John. I have to admit, I didn't struggle with it, but all through the week I was thinking, what am I going to say that is pertinent? That means something, and I just I finally said, screw it. I'm not even going to think about it until the moment I walk up there. So I had a few phrases I went through, and a few quotes, things I wanted to say, but and all I said, I reached out to Dave. I says, hey, Dave, why don't you tell me what to say? So there you go. And that's how that worked.
Dana told me that she had been worried about her voice.
Yeah.
And she channeled, she said, Dave and my grandfather, because I had told her my grandfather at least once a year sang How Great Thou Art.
Yes.
My father sang that song too. Yeah.
And she was awesome.
I got to tell you, I never ceased to have tears at hearing Amazing Grace on the bagpipes.
Yeah.
And it always does that to me. Just soul stirring. And at the end, they had Russ played our friend Russ played Amazing Grace on the bagpipes. So
I told them, I said, I want you to understand this in the right way. Your piping brought me to tears.
yeah. There's not a better way to say that.
Pipers never know how they're going to be taken, because people either love the pipes or they really seem to hate them.
And sometimes when they're warming up, I know I heard that when Russ was first starting, he was trying to get the thing in tune, and you hear that, and then it goes, and then finally it'll kick in, and it gets real smooth and harmonious. And you're like, there it is, you got it. And you gotta slam the bag on the bagpipe with your elbow and blows air into it. Yes, my young daughter, who's still up.
I need $8.
You need $8?
I need $8.
Well, here I can
Yeah, but
contribute to
Scotty,
that.
give it a charge card.
Look at
Just
this.
write her a check. Blank check.
Give it a charge card.
I got a few of
Abraham
those pennies.
Lincoln. Here you go. Abraham Lincoln is on that.
That's not.
Ah, that's cool.
No, but that's a start. You can save that. You've discarded the
Penny.
penny. Penny wise, dollar foolish.
I'll
Nope.
take that.
No, you won't. Goodbye.
Charge card.
Always
No.
look on the ground for money.
She can't have
I
this.
need $8.
What do you need $8 for? It's a great way to wind up the show here, folks.
Because mom gave me $30.
You guys remember the
and
scam
then
artists
outside
back
not-
before the internet days? who,
Yeah.
Ran ads in
Not
magazines.
while I'm not talking in here.
Said send $10 to this address and receive a embossed copper likeness of Abraham Lincoln.
Yes.
Mail the penny back to each of them.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'd melt
An
it.
embossed
Story.
copper likeness of Abraham Lincoln.
And
That's
you
brilliant.
couldn't sue him for false advertising.
No, because that's exactly what they got.
Yeah,
Unless they wanted to take him to court for it not being real copper anymore.
Mhm.
So,
that's like a pet rock. It's a one-off deal.
Well, like,
Yes.
hey,
yes.
Right.
I wonder how
John,
much money he made.
Pennies aren't real copper anymore. They're
No.
99, 90 something percent zinc. There's nickel in it. It's copper painting.
Yes.
It's all zinc.
Yeah.
Been that way since '82.
No, I did not. No, I just texted her 20 minutes ago and said I'm coming to get you at 10:30. So, which it is right now. It's 10:34.
It is.
Why is she texting you? Oh, okay. Yeah, I told her I was going to leave here at about 10:30.
Well,
So I got to wrap this up.
we could leave it on and we could chat.
I could do that. You know, I actually could.
That would get
I
you
would
more
step
watch
away from my
time.
chair. You can all talk.
Make that money while you can.
I'd be a half an hour at the quickest. I'd be back
Well,
if everybody's still here. So
You only need one person to keep it going.
yeah,
At least.
yeah.
The only thing is you can't add
Well,
anybody
field
else.
guy. Field
Hmm?
guy. Why don't you take control here? Get your face back up here, and you can't bring anybody in or out, but you can certainly talk with these guys for a little bit. I hate to ditch on you all.
Sure. Why not?
Familial obligation, especially Sean, the first time you're here, and I got to ditch out. But we'll have more times. And so I'm just going to say to everybody, you know what? Live long and prosper. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here for the show. I'm going to step out. I'm going to leave my screen up, but I'm going to put my microphone on mute. So I will see you
Merry
all
Christmas, Santa.
Merry Christmas, Santa. Ho, ho, ho. So you all have a good time. If you're still here when I get back in a half an hour, I'll see you. Otherwise,
Yeah, sorry.
Sounds good, brother.
see you guys later. Thanks for being here.
Bye.
well, we're now letting my parents sit up late.
Yeah.
Can make this the default KB show since I always miss them.
well, I'll tell you what, I'm back Monday through Fridays, 9:00. And like I said, the guys that do know me, we talk about anything. We talk about politics. We talk about the paranormal. We'll talk about the 3-letter word sex. And if I don't know nothing about it, you're not the only one that can fake it. And I don't care what you talk about. You know, as long as you don't threaten to kill, dismember, or harm anybody, you have a right as an American citizen to say what's on your mind.
Freedom of
And
speech. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I invited the people that have the LSD syndrome to come aboard. I let them say what they want to say, but they don't have the bellows to do it. They won't come on.
That's a damn shame there.
Yeah. I don't think a lot of people in this world are used to discourse, like true discourse. Like
Yeah.
being able to disagree with somebody and still
Well,
like
I'm
them
like this, guys.
afterwards.
I don't hate anybody. They have the LSD syndrome. Doesn't mean I hate you. That means I feel sorry for you. And you guys don't know what the LSD syndrome is. I'll tell you if you don't know. LSD is the Libertad Socialist Democrats. And the syndrome is shiftful brains. It doesn't mean I hate you. I mean I feel sorry for you. They hear, but they don't hear. They see, but yet they don't see. That's the thing. I invite them to come aboard, let them speak their piece, but they refuse to do it. They won't do it. That's sad.
Well, no, they won't. They won't come on there because let's say you call them out on something, they don't have an answer for it.
Exactly, and that's
they're like,
Yeah, I had a guy at California. He's a well-known stuntman. I mean, well-known, and he's a diehard Democrat. And I asked him, I said, "Well, come on to the show in the mornings." No, I just can't talk to you guys. But other than that, we talk as friends off the air. But he would not talk about politics or discuss it with anybody on the other side, which would be me or anybody else. You know, he don't want.
I have no idea what video you're talking about, Steph. Got to explain that one to me. I did see something in the news about Minnesota. Apparently, this police department in Goodhue, the entire police department resigned.
Whoa!
It's been all over the news.
There's only like 7 of them.
Yeah.
And
the chief, everybody.
Yeah.
That's a big thing.
Although they're still working for another 9 or 10 days, but they pretty much was like, no, we're done.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And I was like, oh, I forgot to tell Scotty that. I don't know how close that is to y'all. How close is that to y'all, Uncle John?
Well, actually, they're the county above us.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. They
kind of in between John and I up in the Twin Cities here.
You know why they're quitting? They give a reason.
I mean, would you want to be a cop for $20 an hour when the politicals don't back you up and the people don't back you up, and it's like you're 100% yo-yo, which means you're on your own.
There.
Yeah. You can get prosecuted for doing your job.
Yeah. Believe me. Yeah.
It's just
being a police is a very serious, dangerous job.
I'm not talking about the Floyd thing. Up until they started throwing rocks and starting fires, which were mostly people from out of town. Up until that point, I didn't meet a single person. I mean, I don't care what their political persuasion was. They're going like, if you're in the custody of the government is responsible for your health and security. You know, and they're going like, I saw the video and it was just wrong. It just wasn't done right any way, shape, or form. And then they started burning things all over the country as though they hadn't already won.
Yeah.
Yeah, like an anarchy type of behavior.
Well,
it was sad. It was very sad.
It's scary. Like I said, I'm glad I retired. Did my 30 years and I'm done with it. But it's a sad thing. You know, you put your life on the line and people don't care. They don't give a damn about you. That's a sad thing about it. You know, believe me, I know I've been there. I remember the time when I worked, the big thing was, can we all get along? And I got so tired of hearing it. Are you gonna beat me like Rodney King? Are you gonna beat me like Rodney King? I said, no, I'm not. That's what I would tell him.
Just one moment. I got to take out a second.
Oh, okay.
So Sarah Youssef in the chat asked, what does that mean if there's no police? I actually just saw that there was an agreement with the county sheriff in Goodhue County that the county sheriff's office is going to basically patrol and cover the town at least through the end of 2023. But
I've seen something like
obviously after that, they're going to have to figure something out within the town.
I heard about it because I happened to see the YouTube video. I think it came from that care station. And I said, oh, let me watch this. And I'm like, well, it said they resigned, but then, they got 10 more days left. I'm like, resign means leave now. It doesn't mean wait. I guess they all put in, they should have just said they put in that 2 weeks notice. But
one thing good about it is the sheriff is the chief law enforcement of any city or county.
Yeah.
So they can't be hurting so bad. Like I said, the sheriff can put his men in a heartbeat, even though he runs the jails and the courts or whatever. In any county, city, the sheriff is the chief law enforcement. You know, if you're a sheriff, you go to a city and the police officer tells you you can't do this. No, he can do this. He is chief law enforcement. He's an elected official. That's the thing. That's the difference between being the chief of the police, where the city council hires you. The sheriff is an elected official, so he does have that power. So that's the thing about it.
Yeah. They have elections down here. Right. You know, down here where I'm at, our mayor is the former sheriff, and our sheriff is the former mayor. They switched positions. I'm dead serious. And I'm like, either one of them don't know what they're doing in their position right now, so they're thinking about going back to their old positions. I'm like, what the
episode I watched.
How does that legally work out?
Legal.
They just ran. They one resigned from another one. The terms ended, so they switched. So I don't know
how does switching back work out legally?
Well, both their terms are over.
Be doing a job they were elected to do.
Both their terms are up, so they're just going. In other words, they're running back for their old jobs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they got elected at the same time last year. Yeah,
that's assuming that they don't both get voted out for being idiots.
Well, Drennan, that's his name. Last name Drennan. He wasn't the best. He wasn't the best sheriff to begin with. I mean, not that there's a lot of them, but as mayor, I don't see any difference because I mean I met him 2 or 3 times. Good guy, you know. But other than that, I was like, and then I saw the news where they're going back for their old jobs. I'm thinking, well, they can't screw up much worse. They can give each other tips. Yes, like Freaky Friday, Michelle, exactly.
Guys, Scott, I gotta go put my mama to bed, and hopefully my daddy will go to bed soon after. I think what I'll do is just click my mic and camera, and if I get back in less time than I think, we'll continue.
I just hope we don't lose you in the interim.
Yeah, I won't be offended if you all go home.
I'm already home.
Yeah, sounds good, John.
Yeah,
for mayor.
Yeah,
what do you guys think about what do you guys think about those fires though in Hawaii? Maui Islands down there. There's some people who are saying that the government is using laser technology to create these fires or something like that. I hear conspiracy theories about it.
There are brush fires 5 miles down the road from me. Mississippi's Louisiana state line was burning yesterday. That's like, maybe 10 miles away from me. I went out, looked outside my house, and there was smoke everywhere.
Yeah.
So, right. I mean, I never heard about Hawaii, but there are several places that are burning. Like, within 40 miles of me, 3 places are burning. So, I mean, you don't know if it could be a laser. Who knows?
They're saying conspiracy theories about it. That the government is using some high-tech laser or something to cause these fires, and so because there are people out there who don't actually believe it's just climate change, they believe that people are actually doing these things.
Well, you got to understand, this is Hawaii. That's on the U.S. rule. We all know who's in office right now.
Specific.
Just saying.
Yeah.
I don't want to say too much because you know how YouTube is. But
I understand.
I'm like this. I don't care, and I'm not going to change my point of view. I don't care who's running. I know what Trump did when he was in office. You can't agree with everything he does, but I look at what he's doing, what he did for the people in the country. I don't care if he's in the jail cell. I'll vote for him. If they take him off the ballot, I will do a write-in on the election. I'm dead serious. If they say he cannot run for office, bet your ass I will start something, do a write-in. Write his name down on the write-in. You know, I would do that in a heartbeat.
I don't think they can take – once he qualifies, I don't think they can take him off the ballot.
Man, you know what the hell?
He's the first president now that's been being accused now and being brought to court now with accusations now, I think he said. History is the first one.
Yeah. The Republican people's got to start sticking together and standing up, and quit taking it up their ass from the Democrats. I mean, that's why I talk like that. I'm not a political person. I say it like it is. Quit taking it up their ass. We got to start playing dirty pool. You know, we got to be the same for way. You know, it don't look good, but hey, we got to do what you got to do. We got to get this country back. China's buying all the land. Well, who in the hell?
I see that Robert Kennedy's son. Robert Kennedy's son is running for president. I see that his son is running for president, and he doesn't seem to agree with what Biden has been doing with the Ukraine thing. He doesn't seem to think America should get involved in that. And I was listening to little clips there, and I see that he's an author too. They didn't know he wrote books. You know, he seemed to be a quite intellectual guy. Senator Robert Kennedy's son. You know, Robert Kennedy, John Kennedy's brother's son.
You know, like I was going to say a while ago, what other country can we go and buy their land? China comes over here, buys the land, farmland, and all of a sudden they say we're not going plant anything for the American people to eat. They bought the land. I would say no. You're not gonna get it. You just spent your money for nothing. I mean, that's the way I would be. Nasty. You gave your money away. How the hell you let another country come over and buy our land? I still can't get over that either.
Yeah, China's been doing that a lot lately. I think I heard I heard something. I don't know how true it is that they own something like 20% of the U.S. already through like back, probably more than that now.
But how the hell the American people or the government's gonna let another country come by and buy the land like that?
We ought to go buy China. We ought to say, you know what? We're gonna buy y'all out, you bastards. Fair game.
Won't happen. China's not gonna let you go over and buy the land. It's supposed to be
we'll take it by force. Why not? Be like, hey, y'all taking our land, but
I'll tell them straight up. This guy's crooked as hell. Oh, you spent your money for nothing. That's what yours, brother. That's just me. You know, I wouldn't give you jack back. You that dumb thing you can come over here and buy our land? Are you crazy?
I honestly hope they're not paying with this Bitcoin crap or this dog stuff or. Personally, I think that's all a scam. I don't know. Some people swear that it's not a scam, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Scotty went to go pick up one of his kids. He said he'll be back in 30 minutes, and that was about 10 minutes ago.
Yeah. Hey, let me ask you guys this. I know some of you guys got family, you got kids and all that. Well, let's say the government gets rid of all the money. And the only way you can get any food in your family to pay a few bills and put a little bit of gas in your car, they'll give you a chip in your right hand or in the forehead. Now, and your family, your kids, your family's got to have medication. You got to have food, or you go take the chip.
Hell no.
There you go. What about you?
I don't need no damn chip.
No.
Yeah. But that's the way you can feed your family and get your medication. All I can tell you is this, guys. Lock your doors, because I'm coming to your house and I'm gonna eat. I'm just saying, lock your doors.
I think it's what the trends I've been seeing lately is that there's a lot of more people going back, especially over COVID. Like I don't know about anywhere else, but like here in Minnesota, there's a huge farmer direct initiative. Yeah. There's Facebook groups and everything where people are posting all this information about where can you go buy your stuff from CSAs and farmers that are growing stuff. And, there's places, Minnesota's fairly liberal. We typically vote blue, but that's because of larger population areas like Twin Cities. Outstate, it's all red, and if you go out there, there's places that are doing food. What do they call them? Food sheds. So, you have the watershed, they have food sheds. Where are you getting your food that is local? And there's people, it's north of Duluth. There's an area around the North Shore by Lake Superior where people are going to these farmers markets and they're trading everything and anything that they can. And I can guarantee you there's people that aren't trading for cash or credit card transactions or debit card transactions. They're trading it for goods. And it's almost like we're going back to like pre-industrial revolution type of economy. So there's people already doing it because of the COVID situation, because of the current economy, inflation. And people are like, you know what? How can I grow my own stuff? How can I make something that is a commodity I can trade for food?
Right.
And I think that's a direction where a lot of people are starting to go. And I think that's a smart direction for a lot of people to start thinking about. How can you do something like that?
Are you liberal?
No.
Okay, I just thought I'd ask you.
No. I have some stuff that would be considered fairly liberal. I consider myself non-political. I think the two-party system is fucking broken. I think they pit ourselves against each other. There's liberal ideals that I value as a human being, and only because I value them outside of the context of politics.
Well, you got liberal thoughts. What's your opinion? How do you think Sleepy Joe's doing? In your opinion?
This is my opinion. This is my opinion. Trump has been the best president we've had in a long time.
Yeah, next to Reagan.
In terms of the guy promised things and he did those things.
Right.
And he did them outside of, we'll call it the swamp or whatever it is. He did them outside of that context. And I think he's done better for America than any president has done in a very long time. And I think that's because he's a businessman and because he's kind of outside of that political spectrum. Is he using that political spectrum to his gain? Absolutely. There's things where sometimes he opens his mouth where I'm like, dude, like some to write your speeches for you, dude. Like, seriously.
Yeah.
But I truly believe that Trump and Biden are a complete litmus test for the oligarchs to find out how much of sheep we really are. How much are we willing to accept and go, yeah, that sounds like a good fucking idea. And I don't agree with everything with Trump, but Biden is 1,000 times worse.
Well, Biden's terrible because China's paying the Biden family. If Biden tries to get tough with China, China will turn around and then spill the beans on him. And Trump and Biden knows that. Might not believe it, but Biden knows that. And a lot of people said, no. Okay, that's I think that some of the American people, they see, but yet they don't see. They hear, but they don't hear. And that's the sad part. They're blind, but they see. They're deaf, and they hear things. They're in this little box where they don't look out the box and see what's going on around them. And like I said, this is not my show. I'm just talking in general right now, and that's the opinion. And like I said, I wish some of the Democrats or the libertarians or whatever you want to call them would come into the show. I would love to hear why the man is doing such a great job for the country. Now I would ask them about Hunter Biden. What's your opinion on it? Do you think that he's the big man? Now, they'll get those questions like that. They say, well, if he steps down, we could put Deep Throat Harris in there.
Good Lord.
And
good Lord.
And believe it or not, guys, I think her name that she uses, code name, is called Deep Throat. I'm just saying, don't be hating the messenger. Don't be killing me.
Right.
That name has got a bad reputation.
Huh?
Right. And I think like politicians like Bernie Sanders, I think he was like a red herring. He was somebody that was just too good to be true. He's just another fucking person I don't know if I can say that on this, but he's just another person that was going to step in line with what the Democratic Party was going to do. And I think there's a lot of Republicans that fall in that line too. Whatever the two parties are going to do, there's the people that are going to fall in line. And I feel like Trump isn't one of them. I feel like Kennedy is not one of them. I feel like he's stepping outside of it. What is the woman who's running for President, Williams? Like everything that comes out of her mouth is outside of the Democratic narrative. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, why don't we have more of that? But then at the same time, I'm so far along in this that Scotty was mentioning, I'm in my 40s, right? But yet I'm so far jaded that I can't believe any of it.
Yeah.
Like I have absolutely no trust in any of it.
I've seen a lot of presidents. Like I said, I'm 71 and I don't know how many more years I got left, but the thing is this, this is not the same country that I grew up in. From the 50s to now, it's a totally different country. I feel sorry for my grandkids, your grandkids. Are they gonna be able to have a home, afford anything? Are they gonna all be living in a little shack in the woods somewhere? It's something scary to think about. Because I know, like I said, I'm 71 years old. I may have another 5, 6, maybe if I'm lucky, 5, 6 years left. And that's the thing. But it's the grandkids that I think about, what's going to happen.
Right. Yeah. And that's the biggest thing. It's like, what are we leaving for our children, our grandchildren and stuff like that? My oldest, who Scotty knows, my oldest son, he's a couple of years older than, I think he's like 2 years older than Sam, Scotty's son. And he's been a Marine. He's been in and out of the Marine Corps. And that kid, he's half the time he's like, I don't know if I want kids. I don't know if I want to bring them into this world. And I'm like, the problem is people like you have to.
Yeah.
You need to bring people in this world because, like, you're going to leave it to other people?
Yeah, but that's why I asked the question a while ago about the chip. You got kids. Or you go watch your kids die and starve. Or you got your wife, it's got heart trouble. She needs a medication. Without it, she'll die. So are you going to get the chip to save your wife and save your kids? Or what? Now you got to have a strong mind and a belief that some people believe that would be the mark of the beast. Some people believe that. Are you going to accept that mark? That's a scary thing to think about. Not just for the damnation of eternal damnation because of that you accepted that mark. But and your kids and wives go die or whatever. I'll tell people like this: you didn't kill them. If you refuse to get that chip or the mark, whatever you want to call it, you didn't kill them. The government killed them, or the person that's doing that. So that's the way I look at it.
Just another form of enslavement.
Yeah, what's
what it is. Yeah.
Are you gonna blame yourself or are you blaming the government?
Right. And this whole thing with death, not to tie it back into Scotty's overall theme here, but the whole thing of death is like when people get to a certain point where they start blaming the issues that they have on something else or someone else in this world. Ultimately, it's up to us, the decisions we make. And when you are willing to make those decisions, you can accept the responsibility for those decisions. It's not blame. It's not guilt. It's not beating yourself up. It's responsibility. You're taking ownership for your life and for where you're going with your life.
And what you're doing. It's like me when I had 6 months to live. Did I blame Philip Morris for my illness, for my cancer? No, that's my responsibility. I smoked. Right. I took on responsibility. And did I get better? Or did I say, poor me? Why am I going to die in 6 months? No. I didn't blame nobody. I accepted the fact that I had terminally ill cancer and I was going to live for six more months. But as a lot of you guys know, now I'm cancer free and all that. It disappeared. They can't find it. But the thing of this is, you got to take responsibility for what you do in life. And I could have cried and blamed Philip Morris and the whole 9 yards, you know. But you can't. You got to take responsibility. Some things you do to yourself. I wouldn't take the card. I wouldn't take the chip, because I'm looking at it like this. I didn't kill him. The government did. That's
Right.
my, you know. And you can figure the difference. I'm okay with that.
Right.
And the things that I talk about, I don't expect you to agree with me. I don't want you to agree with me. Sometimes it's good to agree to disagree, and that's the thing.
Right.
You know,
It's
like
personal.
I said,
It's
yeah.
personal conviction, right?
Yeah.
Conviction is about the decisions we make based
Yeah.
on our own lives and our own experiences. That isn't everybody else's lives and experiences. And when we start to have an opinion about somebody else's life and experiences, that's where we screw up.
Yeah.
You know, I can look at somebody like you and go, hell, I respect every decision you've made that you've told me about so far.
Yeah.
Because you've made it true to yourself. You made those decisions true to yourself, not based upon what everybody else, what somebody else is saying or thinking. Not some doctor who's like, "Oh, you're gonna die. Sorry, dude. 6 months is up," and they're looking at you going, "Why ain't you dead yet?" You know, and you're like, "Dude, I got
hello."
Right.
Hey,
Hey,
John.
John is back.
I keep trying to find a way not to have that light in the picture.
It's okay. You look all right.
Elvis, you talk about my team again. I'm coming down to Minnesota or wherever. No, I don't have to come down to Minnesota. I'll get somebody. Go down there to you. Wear my hat. He's a Vikings
Did
fan.
we figure out the whole thing in good, Hugh?
Oh, we went way past that.
Oh, good.
I think we're talking about.
They're nice folks.
I'm off track.
They just could have paid a little more, I guess. Anyway.
Scotty's chair is haunted. Yes.
So you were in for 20 years.
Who?
Oh, I'm sorry. KB?
Yeah. I did
Where
30 years.
were you an officer?
City of Richmond. South side.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I had the south side. But I had a lot of snitches on the street who would let me know what's going on, which is a thing. So, a lot of people say, man, were you scared to work at south side? No, I like it. I had my snitches. They could tell me what's going on. And I knew, so it was okay. It was okay.
Okay.
I did my 30, and after I had a couple of heart attacks, and I said, well, I'm going to retire. I did 30 years. I didn't have to do but 25. I gave him an extra 5. I said, well, I'm going to retire and enjoy the rest of my life. And that's what I did.
Yeah.
And I went back to my radio station I used to work at years ago. And there was an AM, FM radio station. I got back into radio. Then I did a local television station. I did that a few years. And enjoying my life, I got sick last year, but I'm back,
We're glad to have you.
And I tell people, my belief is strong enough to believe, I'll say this, and y'all probably think I'm crazy, but I'll say 2,000 years, God still does miracles, and I have to be a walking miracle. That's the way I look at it.
Okay.
That's the way I look at
Nothing
it.
wrong with that.
I had, month and a half ago, a couple officers came into the Quick Trip where I was working.
Right.
And in the course of having conversation, I asked them how they got along with the high school age folks. And they said, oh, real good. I said, that's interesting. When I was in high school, which was back when everybody was going, don't trust anybody over 30, early 70s, I graduated 72.
Mm-hmm.
And one day I'm walking down the hall and there's a bunch of guys hanging on one of the stairwells, as they were off to do. And they were talking about how the police were constantly harassing them. So I stopped to listen for a while. And I said, I don't get it. I said, what are you talking about? And they said, well, they're always pulling us over for no reason, this, that, and that. They give us every ticket they can. I think they got tickets because they flunked the politeness test. But they're telling me all these stories, and I say, okay, I have 2 tickets and 2 warnings, and every one of those involves something I was actually doing.
Well, you know, Lacy,
I said, so I don't get your problem, because if I hadn't been doing what I was doing, I would not have had an interaction.
Yeah.
You know, and they said, well, you know, we're in the schools now, and we talk to the kids all the time, and they all know us. And it's very different than it was back then, when the only time you did run into them was when the cherries came on and got pulled over. So,
I was saying, John, there's 2 signs on the highway where each sign says 55, 55 side by side on the highway. Pull a guy over, he's doing 75, 80. He said, can you give me a warning? My thing is this: I just gave you 2 warnings back there. 2 signs, 55, each side of the road. That was your 2 warnings. You got your 2 warnings back there, you know. You're doing 580. Well, can't you give me a warning? You just had 2. Both signs said 55. Yeah. I mean, you know.
You know, you shouldn't be complaining when you're old enough to know better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just how it is, you know. And whenever I see a few houses on the side of a 2-lane road, I'm assuming that about 5 feet inside that bridge is going to be a 30-mile-an-hour zone, down from 55. You know,
I know a couple spots.
There's like a whole lot of little towns that do that.
Yeah, out here in Hanover, we got a couple of them like that. 55s and 60. It says 60. Then it'll drop to 40, 55. Then no more than a 0.2 of a mile, it drops down to 45. So, you know, at the other end of that 45, you got the man running right off. Making a killing. You know, making a killing.
The guys in Orinoco used to refer to their new radar unit that hung on the side of the squad car as the coffee can.
Yeah.
People come driving down 52 and leave a little donation for the town.
Just helping out the police department. That's all.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I gotta say, Field Guy, like I see your comment in the chat about using Vikings jerseys for TP. As a Minnesotan, why would you wipe your ass with that?
Hey, I'll be right back. I get a plug, put some power to this thing for $1. I'll be right back.
All right, sounds good, KB.
So what have you been up to?
Not
other
much.
Than having glitches.
Apparently having lots of glitches. Nah, I just, you know, it's been a week, so getting home. I at my job, I'm working incident manager and stuff like that. So I've been pretty busy, you know, and just trying to get ready for the next thing. You know, looking forward to things, and I don't know. I think there's still some things I need to deal with David's passing. That
I haven't had enough time to do that yet, because I slipped right into his shoes taking care of mom and dad.
Yeah, and that's tough. Like, you know, I think Scotty said it. Yeah, it was. And being able to talk to people, see other people that loved him, knew him, and stuff like that, meeting you, you know, it was just one of those things where, you know, Scotty kind of said it, where, you know, the first week after he had passed, it was just, it wasn't denial. It was just this weird realization that this person who had been so constant in your life was never going to walk through that door again, you know?
Well, and at home, Dave mentioned people that he knew and stuff and all.
Yeah.
And but he didn't brag about oh, I've got all these friends all over the place, and
Right.
and he knew. I was always a little amazed at the number of people he knew. He knew archaeologists in Egypt, and he knew historians in England, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But and I knew he had friends in the theater but I had no idea, and my folks didn't. They thought they were concerned that when they passed, there'd be no one in his life. And I'm going, well, first of all, he has family here. And if he has nowhere else to live, he can live with any of us. He could move in with Derek and his family. He could move in with Shelley and me. We would never let him be on his own,
Right.
I don't mean that in that he needed supervision, but I mean that, that there would be family there for him and he would always have a place. But we had no idea the hundreds and hundreds of people spread all over. His friend Wade from his college days,
Right.
who they have had a Dungeons and Dragons game going on for 30 years. Bunch of the college kids, they'd get together once a year now and crash someplace and play for 2 or 3 days and then go home. So many people, and we just had no idea, but my folks were totally floored, and that meant so much to them that so many people came down from the cities, and with some family that flew in from Colorado, which was amazing. That's quite a trip for a couple hours in Rochester. I think they were there as much for my mom and dad, who are the last. Mom is the last person in her family from that generation. Her parents, of course, were gone a long time. Her sisters and sister-in-laws and her brothers were all gone. And just us cousins left, and we lost one of them this last summer.
Yeah.
So, it's been a hard year for them. But they just, of course, David was a huge shock. And then we didn't tell him about Steve because that's the way Steve wanted it.
Right.
He didn't think they could either afford it financially or in their health to come out. And he really didn't feel he could afford to have, as sick as he was, an emotional last meeting. He just wasn't up to dealing with it.
Right.
But,
yeah, and I can't remember if it was Scotty or Dana who told me about Stephen. And it was just, I'm one of those guys where everybody jokes like, Sean, you know everybody. How do you know everybody? Like, and I'm like, yeah, you should meet David. Like, that guy knows freaking everybody. And then some people, like on top of that, add more people to that. And he just knows all of them. And honestly, I think he's just one of those individuals who, when you met him and interacted with him, he made it about you. He cared so much about that interaction with you that he was just truly genuinely interested in you, and that's not, I didn't know about you. I didn't know about his mom. I knew he was taking care of his mom and dad. I knew that's why he was living in Rochester, but I didn't know he had 2 other brothers, and that's not because you didn't mean anything to him. It's just because I think that's how he interacted with individuals, it was about that individual. And I do Viking reenactment, and I actually met David out at the Renaissance. I got to know him better through Scotty, My wife was actually was renting a room from Scotty back in the day when I started to get to know her. When we eventually started dating and stuff like that, we still had a really good relationship with Scotty when he was living here in the Twin Cities. So I got to know him and his family, his older children, and stuff like that. Rainey was there when they started dating and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And when I became a Mason, the lodge that I became a Mason at, when I showed up for some fellowships, David was there. Yeah. And I didn't know that he was a member of that lodge. And I was just so happy to find somebody like him in that lodge.
Yeah.
Because it was somebody I knew, somebody I respected, somebody I loved. I was Will Scarlett for the Robin Hood show out at the Renaissance Festival for many years. So I got to fight and work with people who had learned from David, decades before me. And not to say I'm younger, but got to learn from those people and stuff like that. And so I got to know David more through that. And then as I started to do the Viking reenactment thing, David actually reached out to me and was like, "Hey, so you're doing Viking reenactment, huh?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "I'm in."
Well, David was a very knowledgeable guy. When I first met years ago through Scotty, and he would come to my morning coffee with KB and do a show with me, come on one visit, the short period of time I've known him for only a couple of years, felt like I've known the guy my whole life. I mean, I'm down here in Virginia. When he passed away, it was devastating. It really was. I mean, he was a super guy. He left an impression on you when you talk to him. And like I said, for the 2 years that I've known David, he was an honorable, highly intelligent guy. He really was. And he gave you the thought that he would take his shirt off his back to give it to you if he thought you needed it. That's the type of guy David was, super guy. Yeah.
Here's an interesting thing that happened on Saturday at the funeral. My wife was getting some things together, and the janitor cleaning up in the church, and Dave didn't attend the church my parents did. The janitor said, "Oh, don't worry about it. Dave was a friend of mine. I feel like I owe it to him. You should take all the time you need." And she said, "How did you know Dave?" And she said, "Oh, I used to clean up at the Renaissance Festival, and he always treated me so well, and I always enjoyed talking to him." He said, "Take all the time you need. I owe it to Dave."
That's awesome.
I don't think there's anybody he didn't know.
Right. It's so crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they all sought out the wizard.
Right. Yeah. Very much so. And he was like, so you might have heard it, John. And if anybody goes and watches any of the funeral stuff, part of the Mason rites is when a Freemason dies, we say that he has set down his working tools. And those are typically allegories for things. Purpose of a man in his life and stuff like that. And I mean, David was a man of tools, like sword fighting, painting, writing, cooking. The guy was sewing needles. Like the guy could do pretty much anything he put his mind to. He's one of those guys.
Absolutely.
Scotty talks about the leather masks he made for Tam O'Hare for them to act that out at the Renaissance Festival. And it's like every time a guy like that does that, they show up with this new thing that you didn't know they had a skill for. And you son of a bitch. I had no idea you had that talent too on top of it. But and those are the physical working tools, right? The working tools we use in life. The analogy I thought ironic is, the pen is mightier than the sword. Well, David knew both of those, so he covered both bases just in case. But really, it's like what we're talking about with David is that his true tools that he was really good at was his compassion, his love, his ability to mentor people, the want to even mentor people. And it was effortless for him to do those things. And I think those are the greatest tools a man can have, is compassion, empathy, and the willingness to mentor other people, you know, and have an impact on their lives. So, and he definitely excelled at that.
And like I said, you know, me, I guess you guys know sometimes it's hard to warm up to people, you know, because a lot of times I talk to people, I can talk to a guy 5-6 minutes and tell you exactly what he's like almost. Yeah. And when I used to talk to Dave, I knew, you know, the way he talked, and you know, he was a good man. I mean, look at his eyes; you can tell a lot of the man when he talks through his eyes. And like I said, the little time that I knew David, he left a great impact on me. He's a super guy. You had a great brother. I mean, you really did. You know, and I know Scotty misses him with all his heart. You know.
Yeah.
Scotty does miss. That was Scotty's brother also. You know. That was Scotty's brother.
Yeah.
See, I wonder now.
Dave was down in Texas doing a Renaissance one time, and he had rented a motorhome to go down there. And about the time he was scheduled to come back, some people got a hold of him somehow, probably through connections, and said, "We're doing this movie. We've heard about you, and we'd like you to come and work on our prop team," or something. I think it was props. And so he called me and said, "I'm supposed to turn this motorhome in 2 days." He said, "Can you help me out? Can you contact the people and send them some more money?" So I'm going like, well, he said, "Yeah, this is a great opportunity for me to get some screen credits." Okay, you know, I'll do it. So I wound up having to write a check for $5,000, and because he was going to be gone for a certain amount of time, and they weren't real happy because they probably already had it rented when he brought it back, but they took the check. And about 3 days after he died, Shelley goes, "I guess we're not getting the $5,000 back."
Well, I'll be right back, guys. I got to step inside for a minute. I'll be right back.
Yeah.
That moment is brought to you by
I think he was going to loan me his motorhome. I don't know what he was going to write the billing off at, but I would have eventually got my money back. But
where's this motorhome now? Is it back to?
It's sitting on a rental lot near Orinoco. The people have yet to answer any of our communications, and we have documented all of our communications, so that if they would do something like sell it with its contents because they hadn't been paid, we can show right from the beginning we've been trying to contact them and they have not been responding. Sure. In which case we will talk to a lawyer.
Right.
But I'm hoping that it'll all get taken care of amicably.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully. Because I have no idea how much stuff he stored inside of it for the winter.
Sure.
There could be everything from swords to sewing machines,
right.
Power tools.
That's another thing. Hopefully they don't go up in there and sell everything out.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I hope that doesn't happen, but some people, they'll just be like, "Oh, well, it's here, it's ours now," and then you really have a lawsuit there.
Yeah. Well, we're going to have to sell the motorhome anyway because the county is going to be looking for assets to cover his his medical. But
Sure.
he truly was not planning on dying that week.
Right.
Paperwork was in some disarray.
I don't think anybody plans on it generally.
I keep telling people, you never know. Get your paperwork in order. I haven't had a time to do it yet, but Shelley and I definitely plan, as soon as we get through a few more things here, that we're going to sit down and make sure that we don't leave a mess to our kids and friends to deal with.
Look at Elvis. He's been dead since 1977. He's sitting in that chat. So, telling you.
You know, I know Dana is somebody who has dealt with this a lot, and she's actually given
She's on
presentations.
The team. His friend Wade is a lawyer, and he's on the team. And Scotty's been helping, and we're tracking down dry storage units, and we're tracking other things.
Good.
Apparently, this person owns quite a few storage lots, and every one of them is under a different business name, which is not unusual. But we've been, I think Wade said that he had finally found the name of the guy, and will hopefully be getting a hold of him more directly this week. But their business phones go into a voicemail or to an email. The emails haven't been replied to, and the voicemail is full. So
that's got all the makings of a scam.
The guy took a vacation or what?
Right.
Well, it's a good thing you have documented evidence.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I got a chance to meet and talk to Wade a little bit and stuff like that. So I'll reach out to him. Like if there is things that
Sean,
you guys
were you there on Monday? No, or Sunday?
Sunday. Yep.
Sunday. Yep. Okay. I thought you looked awfully familiar. It's
was wearing another one of these and a suit at the time.
Wade came down on Monday.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah, and he was there just after David passed.
Yeah.
And
yeah, Wade's a good guy. I had actually met him. He had been down visiting maybe last year. And when he was at the funeral down in Rochester, we sat next to each other afterwards, and we're like looking at each other going, didn't we meet before? Like, you look really familiar. But if there is, as you're going through things, and I was going to tell Wade this, but I'll tell you this. If there's things that as you're going through that you guys would like to try and sell, to be able to meet any bills and stuff like that, let us know. We'll be happy. Like within the fight community, the Viking community, the Renaissance Festival community, there's people that would buy all the stuff that he has to be able to cover anything that we need.
Well, we have Dana said there's at least one sword that David had taken in to fix for somebody.
Yeah.
And we need to very carefully document and identify each piece, so that if there are any others he was fixing, they get to the right people. At some point, we are probably going to sell all of the training swords and all of those things.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'll retain anything or not. It just kind of depends on how things are.
Right.
But yeah, it's a very complicated situation. I don't know if there are swords and swords and swords stored inside the motorhome.
Right.
You know, like all the training stuff, that not expensive stuff by unit or anything like that, but There was one painting he had done of himself off of a photograph that had been taken at Renaissance. I don't know if it was the Lord High Sheriff or what, but I have yet to see that picture. We've got a lot of things to go through yet. I kind of hate to think that he loaned it to somebody and it's just never coming back. But,
right.
And then we have a whole bunch of computers down here, and all of those things have to be gone through because of his writing and his writing with Dana, where there's some joint ownership and that sort of thing, and that all has to get sorted out. But we kind of have a crew of people that we put together. I don't know that the crew will get any bigger. We did find his Masonic keys.
Sure.
Eric sent me photographs of what to look for, and we immediately identified those, and I made sure that they were secured so that when we see him, we can turn them over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the important thing here is that the group that you guys have put together, you know, Wade, Dana, the family, Scotty, you guys are the ones that have to decide what is right with his stuff. The wider community at large, utilize them when you need to after you've made the decision.
And between Scotty and Dana and Wade, they'll pretty much know, and Eric at the lodge, we'll pretty much know who we should be working with. So
right.
Each of them has stories to tell about people who called them up the day after and said, "Do you know if I could get a hold of this or that?" And they're going like, "Dude, too soon. If you speak again, I will kill you."
Yeah.
So,
way too soon. Even now is too soon. I think letting the team do their job is what needs to be done right now. And even if somebody thinks they have an entitlement or right to anything, it's really up to those. I think my opinion, having known David, I think the people that you have assembled are the right people. I don't think anybody outside of that needs to be making any decisions or having any opinions on it.
Yeah. We, one of the people that showed up was the daughter of one of my dad's co-workers. And we had gone on a trip in our pontoon boat back in the day. I can't remember if I was in high school or this was junior high. Not positive. Anyway, she was starting to explain who she was, and all of a sudden I went, "Oh, wait a minute. This was the trip where we stood the pontoon boat on its nose in the middle of the Mississippi?" And she goes, "Yes, that was it." That was a day to remember. We had two families on board, and these weren't the big aluminum pontoons that you see now. These were the smaller diameter steel ones. Okay. And we had tractor lights that we'd wired on the front of the boat so that if you were beaching and it was getting dark, you could see what you were stepping off into. And the tip of the pontoons was about a 3-inch flat surface. And they were just running in the water with all the people on board the boat. And that was throwing up a spray that was hitting the tractor lights and coming off in big fans. And my mother said, "Oh, look at the pretty spray." And everybody on the boat but me, I was piloting, took one step to the front and put the 4x8 swimming deck underwater. Later, Dad said, "How did you know to turn the motor down?" I shoved the throttle right down. I said, "Well, it isn't supposed to go."
Nice.
Sometimes dads just never, ever get to the point, even when you're going on 70, because they always figure, like, I'm 25 years older than you. I still know more than you do.
You know,
that was a day to remember.
Yeah. My oldest, 2 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, our AC crapped out. My oldest, the one who has been in the Marine Corps, out of the Marine Corps, he is a HVAC technician.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, when my AC went out, I was like, "Hey, oldest offspring, you should come over and take a look at this," you know. And so he comes over and he takes a look at things and he's telling me about things and stuff like that. And I went, "Yep. Okay. No, really, I didn't know that." Because he's the specialist in his area, right?
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes, like, age don't mean crap when you're not a specialist in a certain area. And you know, for a dad who has raised a child to an adult, like, I'm super proud of this kid, and there's no way I would want to demean him in any way by saying, "Oh, why are you telling me this? I'm your dad," you know, type of crap. It's kids. The kid's awesome. He's super successful. He knows what he knows, and he's he has my OCD. He just applied that to HVAC.
My daughter claims that hers is CDO. Alphabetical the way God intended.
Okay, I'm not that bad.
I was just telling her tonight, there was a thread going on Messenger with the family. We're expecting babies. We're expecting all kinds of wedding coming up. And so they're all chatting. All the ladies are chatting about all this. And Megan, they were, Rainey, my daughter-in-law, Rainey, not his Rainey.
Yeah.
She's going about how hard it is raising a 5 and a 3-year-old. And Shelley was commiserating and saying Megan was a hard child. She's very strong-willed, but she turned out all right, and she's a good manager now. Megan came on and made some little blurb, and I gave her this whole deal about we weren't raising children, we were raising adults. It was back when Megan was born. There were all the Tiffany's and Biffys, and nobody is ever going to say, "I want you to meet President Biffy Potter." It's never going to happen. So I gave them good, strong adult names. We did. And we would often expect them to make decisions. Can you lift me up? Well, how would you do it if I wasn't here? Well, I could pull the wagon over and I could get in the wagon and then I could get on the step. Yeah, you could do that. Why don't you try it? Megan used to get really mad at us sometimes when she was over 18, just over, and McDonald's promoted her to a management position, and she had benefits all of a sudden. And she says, "Well, I have 3 choices. I could do this, I could do this, I could do this." And we explained what each one did. And she said, "No, which one should I do?" I said, "Well, we're not going to tell you that." "Well, what if I pick the wrong one?" I said, "Well, then you have to live with it. It was your choice. You know what they do. Decide which one is best for you, as far as you know. At some point down the line, if you need to change it, that might be possible, or maybe you'll go to a different job and it won't matter." Why can't you just tell me? Shelley goes, you're an adult now. You have to make decisions and live with them. If it's good, it's good. If it's bad, it's bad. You learn from that and do something different next time. And within the last 3 years, we had a message from her one day when we came home and got on our phones. She said, I was always so frustrated with you constantly making me make decisions. But if you hadn't taught me that, I couldn't manage this damn store.
I think that's what we need to teach kids.
Promoted to a manager is because she took the responsibility for her decisions.
Right. And I think that's what we need to teach kids more than anything is how do you make a decision? How do you come to those decisions? Not what decisions to make. Because if we're teaching them what decisions to make, we're making those decisions for them.
Exactly.
Give them the tools they need to make those decisions. Field guy, are you all right, buddy?
Yeah. Just messing with Elvis.
I love it.
He said I'm sleeping with my eyes open. No, what I'm doing is letting everybody else talk.
When I was working at Kmart, at the same time I was working at Quick Trip, I was on the service desk the last few years. I got on the radio at one point during the day. I said, "Isn't there a damn drop of scotch in this whole store?" The store manager came on. She says, "If you find some, let me know."
Attention Kmart shoppers, blue plate special in aisle 2. We don't know what it is, but it's blue plate.
There you go. They wanted me to come back for the last day of the store in Rochester, but I was working in 3 Quick Trip stores at the time, and I just couldn't work a schedule out. And I frankly didn't know how they were going to figure out to pay me for a day's work. All they wanted me to do was overhead announcements because they said mine were the most popular.
Attention Kmart shoppers, we are now closing for the rest of the year. For eternity. Get your stuff. You do the Walmart thing. Get your shit and get
Finally
out.
tore the building down.
Oh, wow.
They closed the one down here about 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah, it's been that long.
Yeah. Good old Sears CEO stuck his foot in his mouth and killed everything.
It took me about 2 years to quit going. Shelley would say, "Well, the lights are burned out." I said, "Well, I'll just run over to." No, I can't do that. Yeah, we lived halfway between the Quick Trip I worked at and the Kmart, and Kmart could never get my schedule straight. I would hand in my Quick Trip schedule to them and say, "These are the hours I'm working. I get off at 4 here on Wednesday," and they would schedule me at 4 on Wednesday, and they said, "Get here when you can." And I had to drive to home, change uniforms, grab a bite, grab a drink, get back in the car, drive another 6 blocks to work, and those were some crazy days. I'm running late. I come up to the front door of the Kmart, and a guy coming out goes, "Hey, your brother works at that Quick Trip right over there." And the only thing I could say to him that didn't cause a conversation was, "Yes, he does." And I went on in and clocked in.
Oh, you've met my twin.
You have 2 jobs? Yeah, and then we got a conversation.
Like 20 minutes later, it's been fun talking to you, but I gotta clock in. Oh yeah. No, actually, the Kmart I was thinking of, there's one like 20 miles down, 20 or 30 miles away. They closed that one down. The Kmart near me, they closed down almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
They closed it down and they turned it into several, like they had a Fred's. Most of it's a gym now, like a big freaking gym. And then they got like a restaurant on one side, but they pretty much, I think it was like 2001. Yeah. And they closed it down because it was getting shoplifted so much.
I got to tell you, we had a horrible problem with it. They wouldn't let us shoot any of them.
The blue light. That was a blue light special, wasn't it? They used to have it.
I'll tell you.
Attention Kmart shoppers, we are now shooting people. No.
Well, they got rid of all the security people because they cost too much money.
Yeah.
And we weren't allowed to touch anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And they got upset if we went outside and photographed the plate on the car as they drove away. You know, it was just all kinds of stuff. And I don't think they should let people from big cities run corporations. They're total different.
Scotty went to bed. If Scotty went to bed.
Did he?
I don't know.
We'll find out right now.
Yeah.
He's been gone for more than an hour now, so.
Yeah, what if he went lay
Think
down?
he'll make it back by midnight?
It's,
Maybe they went to Waffle House.
I'll run it till like he'll get up at like 4:30 in the morning. He'll be like, "What are you still doing on the street? Is this still going?" I'm like, "I'm getting you watch hours."
It's just you by yourself.
Yeah, like I said, it's on here where I'm at.
Well, even if there's nobody on the stream, it'll still keep going because he didn't shut it off.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So people will jump in through the night and go, "Hey." So, it won't shut off until 12 hours. Oh, there he is.
Speak of the devil.
Yeah.
He did go to sleep. He went to sleep.
There we
See?
go.
Hello there.
Hey.
How y'all doing? There's still people here.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
We've been talking about Rainey for about the last hour.
Oh, yeah?
We might have gotten you canceled. Like, just.
What'd you say about Rainey?
Well, I hardly think that would be appropriate.
No, I'm not.
We'll talk about it, but it would be inappropriate to tell you what we said.
You realize he's going to stay up all night rerunning this to see what we talked about.
Let's see. What did they say?
All right.
So, yeah, that took a little longer than I thought it would. It is pitch black outside. And we've got the one bridge in town in Somerset, if you've been here. One little bridge in town. And they closed that off. It's been closed all summer. And because they're working on it. And so you got to go all the way around to the highway, or you got to take the backcountry roads, and you can cross the river like 10 miles that way. And so I took the backcountry roads because I like to drive. Pitch black. There's like you're in farming community. So there's like no lights, just a light every 4 miles or something. And it's like, oh my God. And then somebody would come up over the hill from the other side. They'd have their brights on. And I'm just like, oh my God, I can't see. I had to stop in the middle of the intersection because I couldn't see where the road was.
Oh, I hate that.
He passed me. And, but other than that, so I took it at like 40 miles an hour as opposed to my normal 60 back there.
Well, Scott, I hate to tell you, it's 100% chance of dogs tonight.
Yeah. What's 100% cats or dogs?
100% dogs.
Darkness.
Oh, darkness. Yes.
So,
Turning brightly light in the morning.
The Dark. It reminds me of that book I read to my kids, The Dark. It's written by the guy who goes under the name Lemony Snicket. You've seen his series of unfortunate events. He wrote this beautiful kids book on the dark, and it's illustrated. About a 24-page book. And the kid, I say to my kids,
before you get started on your story, I go to bed. I got to get up early tomorrow.
Sure, I get back and you got to leave.
Yeah, well, I hung in there for a little bit.
Well, you took your sweet time. It's your own fault.
I did. Wow, how long was I gone? Boy, I've been gone an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, see, part of it is I got home and I had to talk to my wife for a minute, and then then she said, "Will you go out and check this for the car?" Sure, I'll go out and check. And so in and out, locking the doors. Some food. I haven't eaten all day, so I put some food up, and then all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, I still got a radio show going downstairs. Let's see if anybody's still there.
We were just getting ready to text you. Are you awake?
Yeah,
really.
I went to bed and said, "Oh, I forgot."
Hey, Scott Allen. I see him over in the chat room. Claudette, I don't know how long ago those were. 11:49. Hey, Claudette, that was just a couple of minutes ago. And Sarah, She said John had a doppelganger. Interesting. And Michelle Kenham, freedom. I can't yell it because everybody's asleep. And my master bedroom's right on the other side of that wall. So if you were talking about Rainey, maybe she heard some of it. I'll just ask her tomorrow.
Oh, she probably liked it.
We four would never take advantage of your lack of supervision.
Your sound just went wonky. Yes. I'm sure you wouldn't. I feel totally confident that none of you would do that. So,
Oh, Scotty, I got to get to bed. I got to get to bed in the morning.
all right, brother.
Coffee.
Well, it's been a great evening with you.
You guys have a
KB.
good night.
See you, KB.
You too, man.
See you,
talking
Kenny.
with you.
See you later, Scotty. Good night, guys.
Have a good night.
Good night.
Night.
Sleep well.
Got it.
It's not snoring, Elvis. That was a
Wake up in
yawn.
the morning.
Elvis is snoring.
Nah, he said I was. No, because
Snoring
I
with
was
his
letting-
eyes open.
No, he's messing around. I was letting them talk, so Elvis was like, "He's sleeping on stream." I said, "No, I'm not," because I was.
I think it's your turn, field guy.
For what?
Your sound is doing something wonky, John.
Tell us some stuff.
Tell about what?
What do you want to hear?
Well, let's see. Scotty is Santa Claus.
Here some night.
I am.
Scotty and I talked about that on Sunday too.
Yes, we did.
Well, the funny part is, I was no. You know how that came about? Okay, there's this channel I watched, the News Maniac, and he's got a long beard. He dresses up as Santa. He does that for the kids during the holidays, whatever. And I said, let me show you my Santa collection. And I'm looking at this, and I go, and Roger Rabbit. I told Roger Rabbit come, and he was looking at that, and we looked at this, and I went, wait, this is Scotty. He goes, no way. He goes, because I showed Roger Rabbit first, and he was going to show you. He goes, I'll let you show him. And I'm looking at this, and I go, and that's the only drawing like that. That's like a
I was
replica
actually surprised at how much it looked like me. So
No, you could sue tops.
yeah.
That card's about
Using my
20 years
license.
old. It came in a set. It came in a Santa Claus set. I don't know where the box is, but it's got all the old replicas of the baseball cards from the 50s, 60s, 70s. That one's the replica of 53, like Mickey Mantle. But the other ones are like way different though. The other ones have like the more modern look, but the old one and Roger said the same thing. He's like, this guy's got a lawsuit.
I wish it was that easy.
You'd be like, who took a picture of me without my permission?
Yeah, really. I probably got pictures where I had my beard, and I kept it fairly trim like that. So, off and on through the last 10 years. So,
attention, Kmart shoppers, get your shit and go.
yeah, really.
They do this
Give me
thing.
a bad time about having worked at Kmart now.
Yeah.
When I worked at Walmart back in the day, that you can't do this now because they don't tell employees the code. But I knew the code for the intercom, and I would just get on there at random times and I go, attention, Walmart shoppers, there's they're selling something over there. Go buy it now. But there are people on YouTube that they know the code to the PA system. You have to talk to someone first. You have to talk to the security. Oh, yes, I'm an employee at store, blah, blah, blah. I need to make an announcement. And they go, okay. And they get on there and they go, hi, folks, I'm on YouTube, and this is my channel. And or they got some other things that they do.
So I see Steph was here. Steph Cuervo Queen. I don't know if you're still here, Steph, but she said, okay, at this angle, Scotty's chair looks like a squatch in the dark with that lighting. And she said, do you see it, Scotty? It looks like his head. It's kind of crunched down and arms out a bit.
You had your chair, and there were two blue dots on the chair that looked like eyes.
Yeah,
so everybody was like, oh, the
You
chair.
can see him right behind me.
Yeah.
Reflecting light.
So the
That
way
looked
you
like
left
an
it, it was
alien.
like, Scotty's chair is alive.
Nice.
Alive.
It's a good Halloween trick. Telling you.
And speaking of Kmart, as you all know, I took a job at Quick Trip a while back, working their night shift. If I ever bring up again that I'm ever going to try that again, somebody please bitch slap the shit out of me. Quick Trip, fine company. They were paying me almost $19 an hour to work the night shift. And
They're pretty good. They have a pretty good night override.
They do. And but Quick Trip was like, I'm not used to jobs anymore where I'm working for other people, first of all, let alone corporate structures. And everybody there always seemed afraid to talk to each other. It's like, oh, somebody's going to see us talking. I got to go mop the floor, or I got to go check the dates on the pizzas, or whatever it was. And yeah, there was a list of duties we have, but I'm always of the mind that you have to enjoy where you're working, and you enjoy, as long as you get your job done, enjoy what you're doing, enjoy being with each other. I didn't really get to know anybody there. The time I was there, not very well, because nobody wanted to take the time to talk or anything. And as I've mentioned on this show before, more than once, I like to operate under that fish philosophy of being there. Bring your own attitude, and make somebody's day. These things that were all kind of management principles. And so I would always go to Quick Trip, and I'm like, on my drive there, I'm like, fuck this shit. I've got to work a job at a gas station market, of all things, to bring in some extra cash. I'm not liking this. It's not my deal. I've been 40 years doing what I'm doing, and now I'm stocking groceries and mopping floors. So I compare it to the old saying about, well, you got to go dig some ditches sometimes. But there was nothing like saying, let's see, I don't have my master's degree, but I put in a couple of years toward my master's. I was in certain career choices in life. I also was in advertising for almost 40 years, and still doing that stuff now. And I look at all of that and I go, I would be stocking eggs and butter and milk in the cooler. And I'm like, fuck this shit. It's the way I felt. I'm like, I'm stocking eggs. Do these people know who I am? Did they even look at my resume? You feel like saying that. But at the same time, I always tried to, that was my internal voice. My external voice was one of never complaining, always going as extra as I could, being cheerful, being happy. Hey, as somebody would say, hey, Scotty, the eggs need stocking. Can you go to the eggs? I go, I am on that shit. And I would go stock the eggs and, or drinks or whatever it was. And so the whole thing for me was one of, and Sean, you can attest to this because you've done festival for years. Good friend of ours, Carr Hagerman, had written a book years ago based on his experiences at the festival as a creative director and so on, called Top Performer. And he would go lecture at a lot of these companies. I don't know if you knew this, Sean, he had Guinness would fly him to Ireland to speak to the company about these management principles. And he was dead set on and accurate about saying everybody who goes to work for a company sometime in life ought to have a little bit of experience doing street characters at the festival. Because what did that bring? Now, I wasn't in festival when I was really young, just younger, and I was already in business. But you know what Fest does for you? You're out there on street. You've created a character. You're putting that character out there, and your confidence grows with it. And so, Sean, I would use those same principles we used as characters on the street at festival, except I wouldn't do the wonky accent or oh my lord, would you like to buy an egg roll with that this evening? Thank you for coming. We didn't do any of that, but it was always that outgoing, people would walk up with their stuff. You go, I would always go, "Hey, how you doing?" That kind of voice.
Right.
Welcome. Hey, let me ring that up for you. Here you go. Thanks for coming. Thanks for being here.
So as you were saying that, as you were talking about your experience at Quick Trip, I was like, tell me you're a Renaissance Festival performer without telling me you're a Renaissance Festival performer.
Exactly.
So KJ actually, when she was working at Best Buy, had brought Car and the top performer thing into Best Buy as well for their whole customer servicing, based on that exact idea that it's really that mindset. And I think you hit it on the nail on the head. Like that internal monologue is like,
yes,
I'm too fucking good for this. Why am I doing this
bullshit? But I will put my best face forward.
Right.
And so now I only lasted there for 2 months, and I resigned out. Part of it was I had something come up, a big job for a client. I had a client that was going to pay me. It would have been okay, I'll just say it. I had a client that for 2 weeks worth of work was going to be about 20 grand for me. Nice. And I went, let's see, 20 grand in 2 weeks. 2 weeks at 36 hours a week times 19 equals after taxes. And I went, oh, and I just told him at Quick Trip, I said, I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks. I didn't ask permission. I just told them I'm going to be gone. I said, I have to take this. And they said, well, are you going to be done? And I said, not necessarily. I said, and they said, well, if you just take the 2 weeks off and we'll cover for you. Okay. And I came back, and then I broke a bone in my foot like the day after I got back. And it was like, I couldn't walk around and do my stuff. So I'm like, I hate to tell you this. I said, I'm not making up excuses. I said, I can't perform my duties with my foot this way. And I said, you know what? And as a matter of fact, let's just call it. I said, it's just not going to work. And so really what it comes down to for me is that, and my foot's all healed now, but working a midnight shift at a gas station market at 62 years old is not the thing I wanted to be doing at 62 years old.
No.
So, and sometimes you can justify it and you can say, I can make 20 grand in 2 weeks doing this thing for this client. Now, it didn't end up being exactly what we had wanted to do. I didn't make 20 grand that week, but I still did work for my client, and it made up more than enough than what I would have made a Quick Trip. And so I don't know, all of that to say the Quick Trip thing for all of you, my listeners who don't know it, I quit that job 6 weeks ago, probably 7 weeks, 8 weeks, and no hard feelings for anybody. And I told her, I said, no hard feelings, nothing. I said, there's no problems. I said, I just, this is not a right fit for me. And so there you go.
Well, they're probably used to that.
I'm sure, because they were like, the whole time I was there, they were shutting down because of the bridge and the lack of traffic. They were sending some of our people to other stores and shutting down hours for a lot of people, but they still had their signs up all over that said, we're always hiring. And they were always interviewing people because the changeover is immense. Yeah, hey, hold on a second. I got something boiling upstairs that I put on in the meantime, forgetting I was supposed to come back down here. Be right back. Hold on. Keep talking.
Back in the day when we didn't have all credit card pumps and we were announcing fuel, I would go, pump number 2, you're authorized to fuel. Please pay inside on completion of the evolution. And one of the day people just couldn't tolerate it. The manager came to me and said, I had a complaint. And I said, from a guest? And they said, no. The complaint was from one of the coworkers. That you'd really irritate him with your funny announcements. I said, do you have a problem with it? He said, no, but just cut it out while she's in the store. I said, okay. And so I just did normal announcements for the rest of her shift. And when she always walked home. And we knew where the property line was because we all had to clear snow and things like that. And the moment she took her second foot off and onto the other property line, I made another announcement my way. And she turned around and she shook her hand at me. And I was looking at her. I was laughing.
Welcome, Claudette.
Well,
yeah,
she was off the property. Yeah. Great gal, though. Great gal.
Good. I haven't went to those. I don't know if it's like what they were talking about, like Renaissance or anything, but they had something like they had a medieval festival 3 or 4 years ago before the whole rabies effect, as I call it. And my brother went like every year for like 10, 12 years. It wasn't down here. It was like 40, 50 miles down the road in another parish. And he went like 5, 6 years, whatever it was, 7 years in a row. And then, because he liked doing that stuff. He didn't dress up or participate, but he went there. He did all the eat the food with your hands, all that stuff. So he went there and did that. Now, I don't know if it's still going because of what happened recently. Supposedly this whole rabies in our state, it's coming back up, they said, but I don't know. So, like
something delectable.
Pizza?
You know what that is? That is freezer pizza. I think it's like a Jack's pizza that the kids all made tonight. And it was left out in the cold, almost the whole pizza. So I threw it back in the oven, put a little extra cheese on it, almost burned it. There you go. Delectable.
Burnt piece, it's good. See me, I just open up. I just take it and eat it cold. But
hang on, I hear parents.
He was circling. I guess he dropped out.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, right when you got up, it started circling. It did that once when you were gone, but he didn't drop out. So he, I don't know if he's trying to get back in or not.
Oh, I see you answered the question. Claudette asked if those festivals still happen. All the time, all over the place. Ours has changed over the years. It's been there for over 50 years.
Well, I never went to it. My brother went. It was called the Medieval Festival, but my brother never participated, but he would go to it. It was in a couple of parishes over, and he went good 6, 7 years in a row. That was his thing.
Yeah.
Like him and his girlfriend always went. They didn't participate. They wasn't in the act or anything like that, but they went and ate the food with their hands.
By the way, eating food right now on the radio, big no-no. In the after show, perfectly fine. Scott Allen, are you near Charlotte?
That's what I was eating.
Is that right? Is that you near Charlotte, North Carolina? When you said the Renfest there is one of the best in the country?
Yeah, he's in Panther territory.
I can't remember. He's Charlotte, right? Around Charlotte or
Charlotte, North Carolina.
It's my daughters have a big booth out there now. They have and that's starting this next weekend or next month. I can't remember. It's different out there because it doesn't get cold there as quick. So they put up a big booth for Finfolk for their mermaid stuff. Not a booth. It's like a building. It's just gorgeous. They did a great job on it. Last year was their first year.
I don't think we have quick trips down here. I don't know.
You have it. They're called something else though.
Where?
Same corporation.
I mean, we have.
Where are you?
The time savers are coming back.
Where are you?
I'm in Louisiana.
No.
He's near
not our company.
New Orleans.
There is a Quick Trip with a Q. Different company.
Goodbye, Sarah. Have a good night.
Because we have there's one convenience store down the way, and then there's one. It used to be called Grumpy's. It's right around the corner. And then somebody bought it. Now it's called back to the time. Down here, Time Saver was big, and then it went out of business. Now it made a comeback, so it's called Ray's Time Saver, and it's a bunch of Indian guys that run it. The ones out here, it's all Indian guys, and they run it. And it's where I get my lottery tickets and my Hubic pies. So it's right next to the Walmart. So every time I hear a Quick Trip, I think of The Simpsons, a poo.
Yeah.
I don't know why. But I haven't. I remember my dad had to work at a convenience store. I don't remember the name of it. He had lost his job, and he was there 20 something, almost 25 years.
Wow.
And he had to take a job, and it was, because we were like, I think I was like 9 or 10 at the time or something, and you
got to pay the bills.
Care of your kids, yeah.
That's it.
So he had to take an overnight job at a gas. It might have been Shell or something, and he did that for about a year and a half before he got his Walmart job. Then he got his manager job. Then he retired. Well, he had to retire.
Yeah.
Disability with his back and
Good
his
night,
knees.
Claudette.
He had to retire at 44, I think. Yeah. So he's been retired at least 20 years.
Nice.
Well, couldn't. His knees was his shot. His back was shot. Walmart will basically force you to retire if you're not working within a couple of months. And he had to have back surgery and knee surgery. They said, no, you're taking too much time off.
Wow.
So
There was a time when Mr. Sam ran the company.
Mm-hmm.
The corporate culture was very different.
Yeah.
I came on board there after Mr. Sam had died.
Yeah.
But I'm down in Fayetteville in a management training class, and I made a point of going out to store number 1 and looking up older guys like me and gals and saying, have you been here from the beginning? Oh yeah, I worked here with Mr. Sam when we opened up. And I said, tell me how things have changed. And they're all going, the accountants are going to kill the company.
I'll bet.
Just, the bottom line people. Sam was a top line people. Give them value, give them value, give them value.
Yeah.
There's Sean.
When I worked at Walmart, Rob Walton, his son, came to my store. And how they do it is this man, well, he retired like 4 or 5 years ago. I think his brother-in-law runs the company now.
Yeah.
And they just bought the Denver Broncos, the football team. So they run that too.
They're doing okay.
But when he came to our store, he was getting so many death threats. They were like, don't talk to him, don't look at him, whatever. They had all the they had his security guards in a circle, and then all the managers went in a circle behind him. And they said, if he comes down your aisle, don't talk to him. So, well, I'm looking, I'm stocking my water. He comes right up to me and starts talking to me. And my manager's just like, why are you talking? I'm like, the president, the owner of the company is talking to me. I'm not going to say no.
Why are you talking to me? I'm just a lowly employee.
Yeah, he was like, how's things going? And I said, well, things are going. And he goes, how's management? I said, that one sucks. That one sucks. That one needs to be fired right there. I said, that store manager needs to be fired. He fired her too on the spot.
Wow,
he was just
really?
Nice.
On your word alone. That's
pretty much. Well, that was the third time somebody told him that he was in the store. But I talked to him for about 10 minutes. He was a good guy. And he's like, okay, well, I'm checking in. He was going around talking to people. But yeah, once he left, they were all mad at me because they were like, you called this one out, you called. I said, well, the man in the company, the owner of the company asked me how things were going. I'm not going to lie to him. Oh, everything's great. So.
Well, that's what they do.
Exactly. Well, he had complaints about that store manager anyway. So I think he was looking for an excuse.
Uh-huh.
He was just like, okay, you're gone. He went to the assistant manager. He goes, you're the new store manager.
Let me thank Sean for joining over at Patreon. Thank you, brother.
Yeah.
Means a lot.
Of course, man.
That's where he went to.
By the way, Scott Allen says, to be 44 again. That makes me think I was 44 years old when Rainey and I first started hanging out together 18 years ago.
Ooh.
So 18 and 44 is where I am now. So that's when I was 44, but I was a young 44. See, so
I am 44 right now.
Yeah, you're the age. I tell Rainey she's 43 now. I tell her, hey, you're only another 6 months. You're going to be as old as I was when I met you. So
yeah, I think it was after
Yeah.
it was after my first Scotch and cookies that you and Rainey started
that's
dating.
right.
So
Scotch and cookies, for those of you who don't know, I've mentioned it many times. Thursday night gathering at my house.
yep.
And it started off with one belly dancer, Becca, and she started coming to hang out. She wanted to just talk and hang out, and then she brought a friend, and then they brought more belly dancers, and it ended up being like 9 belly dancers and me every Thursday night and I would bake cookies because I had kids at home. I was a single sole custodial dad, so I'd bake cookies all the time, and then we'd have scotch, and then Uncle Dave Potter would come over, and it would be Dave and me and a couple of other guys, and then I started spreading the word. This will not do. 9 belly dancers and me and Dave. Let's get the guys. Then the Irish bands started coming over. I don't remember the name of the band, Sean. Maybe you do. It was with, oh God, why can't I think of their names now? Because it's been 18 years. Rainey started. We met at festival, but that's really how we started getting to know each other. She started coming to Scotch and Cookies on Thursdays with Kat Leroy, if you remember her.
Kat, yep.
And so... yeah, Scotch and Cookies, near and dear place to my heart. I would love to start that up again, but we're too far out of the hub. And that's when we were all in Fest full time.
Right.
So everybody came over. And
it was like the after Fest was over type of thing, right?
Yes.
Because for those that don't do Renaissance festivals, like, especially for the big ones, you do it for like 7-8 weekends.
Yeah.
And then it's just like you stop seeing those people.
Yeah.
And so Scotch and Cookies was one of my things at my first year doing it. Started dating somebody else, and they brought me into Scotch and Cookies, and it was this like continuation of that community and being able to like hang out, see people.
Yes.
And actually like talk and chat versus, hey, we're going to go on the street and do things. And then after hours, we're going to drink and get drunk, pass out, and go to sleep.
And Scotch and Cookies went on for, I want to say roughly 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
Every Thursday without missing anything. I never canceled it. I don't remember ever canceling it. There was one time where I went with Jeffrey, Jeffrey and Nate.
Yeah.
We went to England, the three of us and Jeff's wife, Samantha. And we went to England and we rented a car for 2 weeks and just went and pub and castle hopped. But all I did was Uncle Dave would come over. And of course, I had kids at home, too. And my ex-wife constantly not cooperating to do anything. I'm not going to watch those kids extra time just to make your life easy for a vacation, was the line I got. And so I just lined up. I had a whole calendar full of people who were coming over to watch the kids. Uncle Dave was every night. He was there to cook dinner and would usually spend the night and get them off in the morning and then to school. And then somebody would come to meet them after school and maybe they would cook dinner and Uncle Dave would come at night. And I had this whole schedule planned out and Scotch and Cookies. I said to Dave, you're in charge of Scotch and Cookies. And so we didn't cancel it. We still had 25 people show up the 2 Thursdays I was gone. And Uncle Dave took care of it. And so made cookies, and I think he did anyway. And he got the Scotch going, though, and the rum. And so those were good times.
They definitely were. Well, and so Nate and those guys, those were 10 Seconds of Harmony, right?
That was our group, 10 Seconds of Harmony.
Yep. I remember that trip you guys took.
That was epic. It was such an epic trip. And such great experiences on that trip. And we'd like to do a repeat of that trip. It's now, we can hardly believe it. That was 2005 It's been 18 years since we took that trip. And 18 years ago. We're like old guys now who are thinking back to, I fought in the war in 08, and it's like
back in the day before the plague.
Back in the day. But man, that was so epic. We just
with Dave, you'd have to ask which century.
Yeah, which century? And man, the times we had were phenomenal there. And just we had a hard fast rule. We had things we wanted to see, so we had a rough itinerary, but we mostly spent it down in the south of England, and then we went up through Oxfordshire and Stratfordshire. Saw Shakespeare's house, the house he grew up in. We ran up into Wales for a little bit there, then came back down. And the things, and we had a rule everywhere we went. If we got out to walk the village, if there was a placard for a tavern, we had to stop and have a pint. And some days we barely made it out of town. And but that was a good trip. And I may even I've got 1,000 photos still from that trip, but I got one photo. If I've got it handy here, I'm going to see if it's in the right format and I don't have to mess with it. It's a picture of, and I know you've seen it probably, Sean, Kenilworth Castle. Let's see if it comes up here. It's of the three of us. If I spelled it right. I don't see it. It's not there. But yeah, there was a picture of the three of us sitting on what was known as Henry's Mound outside of Kenilworth Castle in Stratfordshire, near Stratford upon Avon. And Samantha went down this little slope to look up at us to take a picture. We're sitting on this little slope of grass outside the back side of the castle. And according to historians, Henry V, or as you can affectionately call him, Henry V, Henry V used to come out with his counselors, and they'd spread rugs and tapestries, whatever, tables and chairs, and they'd hold their council out there on the lawn. And they were overlooking the man-made lake that used to be there. And there's this little hillock there, and it was affectionately known as Henry's Mound, because that's where they would all sit and do their thing. So she took a picture of the three of us on Henry's Mound, and we're all pointing out, surveying our landscape. So if I can find it, I'll throw it up here. But those were good times during that trip. And we went to, where else? We went to Glastonbury, which the famous quote of Jeff, when we hit Glastonbury, we started driving through town. He goes, "Man," he says, "it's just a Wiccan ghetto." And I said, "Yeah, pretty much." So
that's most
a Wiccan ghetto.
Like, to be fair.
To be fair, yes. So I don't see it here, so I'm not going to worry about it. But I was gonna throw that picture up.
It's hiding in there somewhere.
It's hiding in there somewhere.
Gotta be.
Of your millions of photos.
Oh, Jesus.
Taken
I have so many photos. It's unbelievable. And it's what I did. I always took pictures. So lucky for me.
Well, and I think that's one of the allures of going to Ireland, England, Scotland, is to be able to walk in places where you've only heard stories of.
Yes.
Legends and tales.
Yes.
When KJ was pregnant with twins, we actually went out to Boston and got to walk around Boston, walk around Salem.
Nice.
And I I think the saddest part of that trip for me was walking by the pub.
Yeah.
The pub where it all started.
Yes.
What is it? Was it the Dragon's Pub or whatever? Or
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
The Green Dragon Pub?
I don't know.
Dang it.
I just saw a documentary on that a few weeks ago, too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah?
It was on Story. They play all the old history television stuff.
Yeah.
All the documentaries and stuff. It's one of the over-the-air channels I get for free. And I think it was the Dragon's Inn or something.
The Green Dragon.
Maybe that,
Boston.
yeah, something with the dragon.
Yeah. So Sean, did you get like a palpable feeling off the place? Was it overwhelming, like sadness or something, or what? What'd you get off of that?
So we were doing the main walk in Boston, right? The Revolutionary War walk, where there's the line in the cobblestones, where it's like the tour of the Revolutionary War. So the Green Dragon Pub in Boston is where basically the Revolutionary War started. It's the story of like everybody was having the conversation and they wanted to basically tell England to fuck off.
Right.
And so we did this walk, and we had parked over by the main like Central Park in Boston, and we went on this walk, and it was probably like 30 minutes. And to be fair, KJ was pregnant with the twins.
Very pregnant, yeah.
and so we walked by the Green Dragon Pub, and I'm like, oh man, we got to go in and have a pint. And everybody else was like, nah, we're good. And
really?
They're like, you
I'm
can
going
go in. Right. They literally were like, you can go in by yourself. And I'm like, no, okay, fine, I won't. And
you didn't.
And so we went on our walk, and I can't remember what movie it was, but as we were walking through the Central Park in Boston, we went through like they were shooting a movie. So there was like a whole production company and stuff like that. And we like crossed the street, and somebody was like, oh, you guys got to go over there or that way. And we turned and looked down the sidewalk, and there's John Travolta.
You're kidding.
Yeah, like 50 yards
nice
or less down the sidewalk. And we're like, holy crap, it's John Travolta. And we're like, okay, we got to go this way. So we went through, because we wanted to cut through the park to go back to our car, because that was like one of the epic things is like Central Park in Boston and stuff. So, but yeah, they were all like, yeah, but we got to go to a couple different places, some of the churches and stuff like that.
Neat.
Some of the old it wasn't the original Salem cemetery, but so old Salem is somewhere else, and modern Salem is a different township. So like the 1600s graveyard is somewhere else. So my family was actually in Salem at the time of the witch trials.
Oh, wow.
So I was trying to walk around Salem.
Was the same family name? Was it Holt?
Yep.
Wow.
So if you look up Samuel Holt during the Salem witch trials, they lived in that area. And so I wanted to go see those grave sites, but I didn't know that modern Salem is not old Salem. So it's an entirely different graveyard. And so I was like, oh crap, we went to the wrong one. But we got to wander around Salem and stuff like that, which was pretty cool. But yeah, if you there's the Salem witch trial documents.
Yes.
Within that documents, there's a whole bunch of affidavits that citizens of the area had signed and said, we believe so and so to be innocent of the charges. Samuel Holt signed his name and his family's name.
Oh, wow.
In those documents. So it was one of those things where it's like huge connection to history. Got to go see that. Got to go see those.
Did they stand for the accused?
Yes.
And did they get any trouble for doing that?
I don't know. That's one of the things that I don't know if they ever got trouble for it. I know they stood for the accused. I believe they signed multiple affidavits. I believe one of them was hung and the other one was not.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's pretty strong. Do you have documentation of this that with your family?
yes, I would have to find the like PDFs of it and stuff like, but yeah, they signed the affidavits. My family lived in the area at the time. So both my maternal and paternal lines came to the United States in the 1630s.
Wow.
So the Woodbridges, John Woodbridge was a reverend of a church, and then Nathaniel Holt was one of the families of that church.
Mm-hmm.
And they went from so they both came in the 1630s to Newbury, Massachusetts. In the 1640s, they went and founded the town of Andover, Massachusetts. So Reverend John Woodbridge was the reverend of that parish that went, and I believe there were 10 families that went.
Wow.
And so they were part of that. So if you go to Andover, Massachusetts today, there's still the I believe the 1700s Holt farmhouse. The what is now Ward Reservation is actually originally Holt farm land that became the Ward Reservation, which was funny with John Ward. I was like, oh, is that the same Ward family?
You wonder. I mean, it's a common enough name, but yeah, they're from he's from Herefordshire.
Yeah.
Hereford. So
yeah.
By the way,
yeah, so go ahead.
There is that.
Oh, there you go.
While we're talking.
Nice. But yeah, so our family's been through the Revolutionary War, through the witch trials beforehand, and stuff like that. So, been around a long time. My paternal grandmother is actually a Franklin. Descended from James Franklin.
From Ben? Oh,
yeah, from James, his older brother.
Okay.
Yep.
James, his oldest son. Did you say? Well, he was at odds with his dad, wasn't he? For a long time.
I'd have to look up if it was his oldest son. I don't remember. I just remember James.
I can't remember the first name, but I know Franklin's son and he were on different sides of the revolution.
Oh, yes. Which son?
So
I can't remember his name. I think it was his oldest son, but
so Enoch Day Woodbridge is who I'm descended from the Woodbridges side, and they fought in Lexington, Concord. I believe it was Lexington. He was actually injured in that. But the Franklin side, I'd have to look into that more.
Wow.
To see which son it was.
And by the way, all of you, if you're not looking and you take a look at your screen, this is the picture. This is Henry's Mound out the back door of Kenilworth Castle in Stratford upon Avon. Stratfordshire, anyway. And one of the most famous residents of this castle, of course, was Robert Dudley, who was almost married to Queen Elizabeth, her lover, who lost his head eventually.
So we actually have some Dudley in our family as well.
Oh, wow. That's
cool. The second John Woodbridge was actually married to Mercy Dudley.
Oh, wow.
Sister of Anne Bradstreet.
Wow, that's pretty cool. You got some history in your family.
Yes. So John Woodbridge, along with Anne's husband, was the two people who financed Anne's first publication of her poetry.
Nice.
And John was known to carry a book of her poetry on seminary when he was at college.
Outstanding. Wow.
Yeah.
This is Bugman's Pub in Nottingham.
Nice.
And connected with the World of Warcraft organization. So it's a cool old pub. But this was all March of 2005. So this would have been about 2-3 months before Rainey and I really started serious hanging out. You can see we were dating right away, but we hung out like adults hang out. And then we started dating after that. So
young, so innocent.
So young, so innocent.
Well, maybe not innocent, but
maybe young. But there, I was 44 there. There you go.
Yeah.
So
that's
my
right about the time I met you.
Yeah, that's about the time. Amanda was hanging around, and you dated Amanda for a while. Kelly Jo, your wife now, KJ, she was my roommate at, I think it was at this time, wasn't it? Or was it right after this? Right.
It was at this time. Yeah, it was right before this.
Something like that.
Yep.
So, which is funny. It's such a small world we had. We festival people at the time. So anyway,
it's a community. Like, you know, going to Davis Memorial was like a huge like throwback to that community and like reconnecting with some of those people.
Yes.
So
yeah, it was. There were some people there. Frankly, that came up and started talking to me, and I had to really look deep to recognize some of them.
Right.
A couple of them. Anyway. What's that?
I hate that feeling.
I know.
Right.
Especially when
places and you've done enough things.
It's when they come up to you.
In town for so many years, and people just come up and start talking to you, and you're going, "Where the hell do I know them from?"
Yeah. They come up to you and they throw their arms around you and they're, "Oh, Scotty, it's so nice to see you," and this and that. And I'm like, your brain's going, "Who is this? Who is this? Who is this?" I cannot think of who this is. And
you're like, "Excuse me, who are you again?" I forget.
Sean, do you remember the young woman who was there in the pirate getup?
Yeah.
She came that way. She said, "I dressed like a pirate for the celebration." And she said, "Maybe it's not appropriate for the funeral, but I've already got it on." So
I told her I was delighted that she showed up that way.
I was glad she showed up that way. I said, she mentioned it to me the first thing when I saw her in the parking lot. I said, "I wouldn't worry about it." I said, "You're here for Dave anyway." So
right.
But I saw her in the parking lot and I didn't know who she was at first. And she yells out, "Scotty!" And she threw her arms around me. And I'm like, "Hey, I'll hug that back. I'm right there. I'm in that. I'm hugging." And I'm like, "I'm hugging and I'm thinking of what your name is. I don't remember who you are." And I think, wasn't she there with Christopher the day before Dave passed at the hospital? Was she not there with us? I think she was the one that came with Christopher.
That could be.
From the lodge.
Yeah, that could be.
So Sarah is her name. Sarah, I think it's Hendrickson or something like that. No.
Yeah.
Something.
I've seen her face before. I couldn't place her. You know, it's like look familiar, not sure. You know, and that's Dave, right? He had his hands in so many areas and so many communities. Like
exactly.
It's so crazy, but
well, guys, I'm going to call this, even though I was gone for an hour and 25 minutes or something like that in between. It's now 12:41. The latest we've ever gone with this show was about this time with Dave. So he'd always be Dave. It was Dave and it was Professor Bauer. If I was going to say 11 o'clock, we're done, guys. And at 3 minutes to 11, I go, "Okay, we're going to start wrapping this up." And Dave would always be like, "Oh, wait, but I got one more point I want to bring him." And it would last another 25 minutes.
Right.
Well, Professor Bauer was very good for that.
So what you're saying is I'm as bad an influence as Dave.
You're a bad influence, Mr. Night Owl.
Yeah, pretty bad. Well,
but we will do
Dave.
this again on Friday night. Yes, I do not have a like kind of drink, but I have a Tam O'Hare mug though.
Ooh, there we go. That's very nice.
There he is. So, cheers.
Cheers.
Sean, great having you here tonight.
Thanks, brother.
And,
it's good night being here.
Uncle John, you have now become Uncle John to everybody. Great having you here tonight. And Field Guy, you awake over there?
I'm awake.
Okay.
No, not dead yet.
I'm not dead.
No.
He was just changing to something more sheer.
Yes.
No, I had to start laying down. My back was hurting.
That's okay. Oh, we saw you laying down.
Y'all were talking about old stuff, and then my back hurt it and said, no.
Yep. Geriatric hour. No, not quite yet. So anyway, guys, I'm going to let you all go. Thanks for being here. Sean, come back again. When we have
of course, brother.
The captain's cabin, we'll get some good discussions going, and it'll be good to have you around.
Sounds good.
Good to see you. See you later.
Love you.
John, good to see you, Uncle John. You have a good night. I'll talk to you very soon. Dana and I were talking, and we got to talk with you a little bit, so probably talk to you soon.
It was lovely to meet your entire family.
Why? Oh, thank you. I was glad that everybody was here for that. So,
and I know how hard it was for the Finn folk to get away.
Yeah. They came up and flew up here just for Uncle Dave's memorial.
Well, when you talk to him again, give him all my love.
I will.
And tell him it was very special to have them there.
I will. Thank you, John.
Good night.
All right. Talk to you soon. Field Guy, you have a good night, brother.
You too.
And I'll see you soon.
Will do. Have a good one.
All right. Good night. All right, everybody else, thank you for being here. I'm sure glad you made it in. Means a lot to me that you were here. We might do this again like this on Friday. We'll see how things go. But in the meantime, I want you all to live long and prosper.